about the same next week. What's been really interesting is how you slice this. Is it one partner, maybe a big private equity firm, coming in for the full 300 million, or do you have 10 or 12 investors at 50 or 25 million? And finally, finishing in cricket, and Liam Livingstone fired an unbeaten 85 from just 31 deliveries as he guided Lancashire Lightning to a 7-wicket rain-affected win over Durham. Livingstone had earlier had bowling figures of 1 for 19 as he removed Alex Lees to end a 76-run opening stand, as Durham posted 128 for 2 from their 10 overs after winning the toss. Livingstone, he then hit 14 boundaries, including 8 maximums in his extraordinary knock, as Lancashire chased down their victory target with 5 balls to spare. The Lightning do remain bottom of the North Group despite their second win of the season, although they have moved level on points with Durham. Elsewhere in the Blast and Northamptonshire Steelbacks, they continued their perfect start to the competition with a 6-wicket win at home to Worcestershire Rapids. In a match reduced to 18 overs aside by the wet weather, Gareth Roderick top scored for the visitors with 47 off 32 balls and a total of 154 for 5. Steelbacks captain David Willey hit 3 sixes and 4 fours and a knock of 47 before an unbeaten 26 from Justin Broad helped the leaders to a 6th successive win with 12 balls remaining. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sporting headlines. I'm James Mason. We're beginning at football, and Marco Silva has agreed to become Benfica's new head coach. That's as the Portuguese club formalised Jose Mourinho's departure for Real Madrid. Silva, he ended his 5-year stint as Fulham boss a week ago when his contract at Craven Cottage expired. Benfica said they had reached an agreement with Silva, who is set to sign a contract until the end of the 2027-28 season, which can be extended to the 2028-29 campaign. Sticking in football, and Bukayo Saka is an injury worry for England just days ahead of the World Cup. The Three Lions boss Thomas Tuchel confirmed that Arsenal winger has been struggling with an Achilles issue and cannot take part in every training session. Tuchel also confirmed it was unlikely Saka would start against Costa Rica on Wednesday in England's final warm-up game before the tournament begins. Also in football, and Ben Davies has signed a new 12-month deal at Tottenham Hotspur to extend his stay at the club into a 13th season. The Wales captain only made 5 appearances during an injury-ravaged last season, but he was praised by Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi for his leadership during a tense and ultimately successful relegation battle in the Premier League. Moving on to golf now, and at Live Golf, Chief Executive Scott O'Neill refused to be drawn on whether the league's remaining events of 2026 will take place, as he outlined the scramble for post-Saudi investment. O'Neill is seeking $300 million from outside backers to keep the breakaway circuit afloat. That's after Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund announced plans to withdraw funding at the end of the year, having invested more than £4 billion since 2022. Speaking on this though, O'Neill said, "I've had 5 formal meetings so far. I've got 18 more this week and about the same next week. What's been really interesting is how you slice this. Is it one partner, maybe a big private equity firm, coming in for the full 300 million, or do you have 10 or 12 investors at 50 or 25 million? And finally, finishing in cricket, and Liam Livingstone fired an unbeaten 85 from just 31 deliveries as he guided Lancashire Lightning to a 7-wicket rain-affected win over Durham. Livingstone had earlier had bowling figures of 1 for 19 as he removed Alex Lees to end a 76-run opening stand, as Durham posted 128 for 2 from their 10 overs after winning the toss. Livingstone, he then hit 14 boundaries, including 8 maximums in his extraordinary knock, as Lancashire chased down their victory target with 5 balls to spare. The Lightning do remain bottom of the North Group despite their second win of the season, although they have moved level on points with Durham. Elsewhere in the Blast and Northamptonshire Steelbacks, they continued their perfect start to the competition with a 6-wicket win at home to Worcestershire Rapids. In a match reduced to 18 overs aside by the wet weather, Gareth Roderick top scored for the visitors with 47 off 32 balls and a total of 154 for 5. Steelbacks captain David Willey hit 3 sixes and 4 fours and a knock of 47 before an unbeaten 26 from Justin Broad helped the leaders to a 6th successive win with 12 balls remaining. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sporting headlines. I'm James Mason. We're beginning at football, and Marco Silva has agreed to become Benfica's new head coach. That's as the Portuguese club formalised Jose Mourinho's departure for Real Madrid. Silva, well, he ended his 5-year stint as Fulham boss a week ago when his contract at Craven Cottage expired. Benfica said they had reached an agreement with Silva, who is set to sign a contract until the end of the 2027-28 season, which can be extended to the 2028-29 campaign. Sticking in football, and Bukayo Saka is an injury worry for England just days ahead of the World Cup. The Three Lions boss Thomas Tuchel confirmed that Arsenal winger has been struggling with an Achilles issue and cannot take part in every training session. Tuchel also confirmed it was unlikely Saka would start against Costa Rica on Wednesday in England's final warm-up game before the tournament begins. Also in football, and Ben Davies has signed a new 12-month deal at Tottenham Hotspur to extend his stay at the club into a 13th season. The Wales captain only made 5 appearances during an injury-ravaged last season, but he was praised by Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi for his leadership during a tense and ultimately successful relegation battle in the Premier League. Moving on to golf now, and at Live Golf, Chief Executive Scott O'Neill refused to be drawn on whether the league's remaining events of 2026 will take place, as he outlined the scramble for post-Saudi investment. O'Neill is seeking $300 million from outside backers to keep the breakaway circuit afloat. That's after Saudi Arabia's public investment fund announced plans to withdraw funding at the end of the year, having invested more than £4 billion since 2022. Speaking on this though, O'Neill said, "I've had 5 formal meetings so far, I've got 18 more this week and about the same next week. What's been really interesting is how you slice this. Is it one partner, maybe a big private equity firm, coming in for the full 300 million, or do you have 10 or 12 investors at 50 or 25 million? And finally, finishing in cricket, and Liam Livingstone fired an unbeaten 85 from just 31 deliveries as he guided Lancashire Lightning to a 7-wicket rain-affected win over Durham. Livingstone had earlier had bowling figures of 1 for 19 as he removed Alex Lees to end a 76-run opening stand, as Durham posted 128 for 2 from their 10 overs after winning the toss. Livingstone, well, he then hit 14 boundaries, including 8 maximums in his extraordinary knock, as Lancashire chased down their victory target with 5 balls to spare. The Lightning do remain bottom of the North Group despite their second win of the season, although they have moved level on points with Durham. Elsewhere in the Blast and Northamptonshire Steelbacks, well, they continued their perfect start to the competition with a 6-wicket win at home to Worcestershire Rapids. In a match reduced to 18 overs aside by the wet weather, Gareth Roderick top scored for the visitors with 47 off 32 balls in a total of 154 for 5. Steelbacks captain David Willey hit 3 sixes and 4 fours and a knock of 47 before an unbeaten 26 from Justin Broad helped the leaders to a 6th successive win with 12 balls remaining. That's all for now, we'll have more later. Here are your latest sporting headlines. I'm James Mason. We're beginning at football, and Marco Silva has agreed to become Benfica's new head coach. That's as the Portuguese club formalised Jose Mourinho's departure for Real Madrid. Silva, well, he ended his 5-year stint as Fulham boss a week ago when his contract at Craven Cottage expired. Benfica said they had reached an agreement with Silva, who is set to sign a contract until the end of the 2027-28 season, which can be extended to the 2028-29 campaign. Sticking in football, and Bukayo Saka is an injury worry for England just days ahead of the World Cup. The Three Lions boss Thomas Tuchel confirmed that Arsenal winger has been struggling with an Achilles issue and cannot take part in every training session. Tuchel also confirmed it was unlikely Saka would start against Costa Rica on Wednesday in England's final warm-up game before the tournament begins. Also in football, and Ben Davies has signed a new 12-month deal at Tottenham Hotspur to extend his stay at the club into a 13th season. The Wales captain only made 5 appearances during an injury-ravaged last season, but he was praised by Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi for his leadership during a tense and ultimately successful relegation battle in the Premier League. Moving on to golf now, and at Live Golf, Chief Executive Scott O'Neill refused to be drawn on whether the league's remaining events of 2026 will take place, as he outlined the scramble for post-Saudi investment. O'Neill is seeking $300 million from outside backers to keep the breakaway circuit afloat. That's after Saudi Arabia's public investment fund announced plans to withdraw funding at the end of the year, having invested more than £4 billion since 2022. Speaking on this though, O'Neill said, "I've had 5 formal meetings so far, I've got 18 more this week and about the same next week. What's been really interesting is how you slice this. Is it one partner, maybe a big private equity firm, coming in for the full 300 million, or do you have 10 or 12 investors at 50 or 25 million? And finally finishing in cricket, and Liam Livingstone fired an unbeaten 85 from just 31 deliveries as he guided Lancashire Lightning to a 7-wicket rain-affected win over Durham. Livingstone had earlier had bowling figures of 1 for 19 as he removed Alex Lees to end a 76-run opening stand as Durham posted 128 for 2 from their 10 overs after winning the toss. Livingstone, he then hit 14 boundaries, including 8 maximums in his extraordinary knock as Lancashire chased down their victory target with 5 balls to spare. The Lightning do remain bottom of the North Group despite their second win of the season, although they have moved level on points with Durham. Elsewhere in the Blast and Northamptonshire Steelbacks, they continued their perfect start to the competition with a 6-wicket win at home to Worcestershire Rapids. In a match reduced to 18 overs aside by the wet weather, Gareth Roderick top scored for the visitors with 47 off 32 balls in a total of 154 for 5. Steelbacks captain David Willey hit 3 sixes and 4 fours and a knock of 47 before an unbeaten 26 from Justin Broad helped the leaders to a 6th successive win with 12 balls remaining. That's all for now, we'll have more later. Here are your latest sporting headlines. I'm James Mason. We're beginning at football, and Marco Silva has agreed to become Benfica's new head coach. That's as the Portuguese club formalised Jose Mourinho's departure for Real Madrid. Silva, he ended his 5-year stint as Fulham boss a week ago when his contract at Craven Cottage expired. Benfica said they had reached an agreement with Silva, who is set to sign a contract until the end of the 2027-28 season, which can be extended to the 2028-29 campaign. Sticking in football, and Bukayo Saka is an injury worry for England just days ahead of the World Cup. The Three Lions boss Thomas Tuchel confirmed that Arsenal winger has been struggling with an Achilles issue and cannot take part in every training session. Tuchel also confirmed it was unlikely Saka would start against Costa Rica on Wednesday in England's final warm-up game before the tournament begins. Also in football, and Ben Davies has signed a new 12-month deal at Tottenham Hotspur to extend his stay at the club into a 13th season. The Wales captain only made 5 appearances during an injury-ravaged last season, but he was praised by Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi for his leadership during a tense and ultimately successful relegation battle in the Premier League. Moving on to golf now, and at Live Golf, Chief Executive Scott O'Neill refused to be drawn on whether the league's remaining events of 2026 will take place, as he outlined the scramble for post-Saudi investment. O'Neill is seeking $300 million from outside backers to keep the breakaway circuit afloat. That's after Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund announced plans to withdraw funding at the end of the year, having invested more than £4 billion since 2022. Speaking on this though, O'Neill said, "I've had 5 formal meetings so far, I've got 18 more this week and about the same next week. What's been really interesting is how you slice this. Is it one partner, maybe a big private equity firm, coming in for the full $300 million, or do you have 10 or 12 investors at 50 or 25 million? And finally finishing in cricket, and Liam Livingstone fired an unbeaten 85 from just 31 deliveries as he guided Lancashire Lightning to a 7-wicket rain-affected win over Durham. Livingstone had earlier had bowling figures of 1 for 19 as he removed Alex Lees to end a 76-run opening stand as Durham posted 128 for 2 from their 10 overs after winning the toss. Livingstone, he then hit 14 boundaries, including 8 maximums in his extraordinary knock as Lancashire chased down their victory target with 5 balls to spare. The Lightning do remain bottom of the North Group despite their second win of the season, although they have moved level on points with Durham. Elsewhere in the Blast and Northamptonshire Steelbacks, they continued their perfect start to the competition with a 6-wicket win at home to Worcestershire Rapids. In a match reduced to 18 overs aside by the wet weather, Gareth Roderick top scored for the visitors with 47 off 32 balls in a total of 154 for 5. Steelbacks captain David Willey hit 3 sixes and 4 fours and a knock of 47 before an unbeaten 26 from Justin Broad helped the leaders to a 6th successive win with 12 balls remaining. That's all for now, we'll have more later. Here are your latest sporting headlines. I'm James Mason. We're beginning at football, and Marco Silva has agreed to become Benfica's new head coach. That's as the Portuguese club formalised Jose Mourinho's departure for Real Madrid. Silva, he ended his 5-year stint as Fulham boss a week ago when his contract at Craven Cottage expired. Benfica said they had reached an agreement with Silva, who is set to sign a contract until the end of the 2027-28 season, which can be extended to the 2028-29 campaign. Sticking in football, and Bukayo Saka is an injury worry for England just days ahead of the World Cup. The Three Lions boss Thomas Tuchel confirmed that Arsenal winger has been struggling with an Achilles issue and cannot take part in every training session. Tuchel also confirmed it was unlikely Saka would start against Costa Rica on Wednesday in England's final warm-up game before the tournament begins. Also in football, and Ben Davies has signed a new 12-month deal at Tottenham Hotspur to extend his stay at the club into a 13th season. The Wales captain only made 5 appearances during an injury-ravaged last season, but he was praised by Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi for his leadership during a tense and ultimately successful relegation battle in the Premier League. Moving on to golf now, and at Live Golf, Chief Executive Scott O'Neill refused to be drawn on whether the league's remaining events of 2026 will take place, as he outlined the scramble for post-Saudi investment. O'Neill is seeking $300 million from outside backers to keep the breakaway circuit afloat. That's after Saudi Arabia's public investment fund announced plans to withdraw funding at the end of the year, having invested more than £4 billion since 2022. Speaking on this though, O'Neill said, "I've had 5 formal meetings so far, I've got 18 more this week and about the same next week. What's been really interesting is how you slice this. Is it one partner, maybe a big private equity firm, coming in for the full $300 million, or do you have 10 or 12 investors at 50 or 25 million? And finally, finishing in cricket, and Liam Livingstone fired an unbeaten 85 from just 31 deliveries as he guided Lancashire Lightning to a 7-wicket rain-affected win over Durham. Livingstone had earlier had bowling figures of 1 for 19 as he removed Alex Lees to end a 76-run opening stand, as Durham posted 128 for 2 from their 10 overs after winning the toss. Livingstone he then hit 14 boundaries, including 8 maximums in his extraordinary knock, as Lancashire chased down their victory target with 5 balls to spare. The Lightning do remain bottom of the North Group despite their second win of the season, although they have moved level on points with Durham. Elsewhere in the Blast and Northamptonshire Steelbacks, they continued their perfect start to the competition with a 6-wicket win at home to Worcestershire Rapids. In a match reduced to 18 overs aside by the wet weather, Gareth Roderick top scored for the visitors with 47 off 32 balls in a total of 154 for 5. Steelbacks captain David Willey hit 3 sixes and 4 fours and a knock of 47 before an unbeaten 26 from Justin Broad helped the leaders to a 6th successive win with 12 balls remaining. That's all for now, we'll have more later. Here are your latest sporting headlines. I'm James Mason. We're beginning at football, and Marco Silva has agreed to become Benfica's new head coach. That's as the Portuguese club formalised Jose Mourinho's departure for Real Madrid. Silva, he ended his 5-year stint as Fulham boss a week ago when his contract at Craven Cottage expired. Benfica said they had reached an agreement with Silva, who is set to sign a contract until the end of the 2027-28 season, which can be extended to the 2028-29 campaign. Sticking in football, and Bukayo Saka is an injury worry for England just days ahead of the World Cup. The Three Lions boss Thomas Tuchel confirmed that Arsenal winger has been struggling with an Achilles issue and cannot take part in every training session. Costa Rica on Wednesday in England's final warm-up game before the tournament begins. Also in football, and Ben Davies has signed a new 12-month deal at Tottenham Hotspur to extend his stay at the club into a 13th season. The Wales captain only made 5 appearances during an injury-ravaged last season, but he was praised by Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi for his leadership during a tense and ultimately successful relegation battle in the Premier League. Moving on to golf now, and at Live Golf, Chief Executive Scott O'Neill refused to be drawn on whether the league's remaining events of 2026 will take place, as he outlined the scramble for post-Saudi investment. O'Neill is seeking $300 million from outside backers to keep the breakaway circuit afloat. That's after Saudi Arabia's public investment fund announced plans to withdraw funding at the end of the year, having invested more than £4 billion since 2022. Speaking on this though, O'Neill said, "I've had 5 formal meetings so far, I've got 18 more this week and about the same next week. What's been really interesting is how you slice this. Is it one partner, maybe a big private equity firm, coming in for the full $300 million, or do you have 10 or 12 investors at 50 or 25 million? And finally, finishing in cricket, and Liam Livingstone fired an unbeaten 85 from just 31 deliveries as he guided Lancashire Lightning to a 7-wicket rain-affected win over Durham. Livingstone had earlier had bowling figures of 1 for 19 as he removed Alex Lees to end a 76-run opening stand as Durham posted 128 for 2 from their 10 overs after winning the toss. Livingstone, he then hit 14 boundaries, including 8 maximums in his extraordinary knock as Lancashire chased down their victory target with 5 balls to spare. The Lightning do remain bottom of the North Group despite their second win of the season, although they have moved level on points with Durham. Elsewhere in the Blast and Northamptonshire Steelbacks, they continued their perfect start to the competition with a 6-wicket win at home to Worcestershire Rapids. In a match reduced to 18 overs aside by the wet weather, Gareth Roderick top scored for the visitors with 47 off 32 balls in a total of 154 for 5. Steelbacks captain David Willey hit 3 sixes and 4 fours and a knock of 47 before an unbeaten 26 from Justin Broad helped the leaders to a 6th successive win with 12 balls remaining. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sporting headlines. I'm James Mason. We're beginning at football, and Marco Silva has agreed to become Benfica's new head coach. That's as the Portuguese club formalised Jose Mourinho's departure for Real Madrid. Silva, he ended his 5-year stint as Fulham boss a week ago when his contract at Craven Cottage expired. Benfica said they had reached an agreement with Silva, who is set to sign a contract until the end of the 2027-28 season, which can be extended to the 2028-29 campaign. Sticking in football, and Bukayo Saka is an injury worry for England just days ahead of the World Cup. The Three Lions boss Thomas Tuchel confirmed that Arsenal winger has been struggling with an Achilles issue and cannot take part in every training session. Tuchel also confirmed it was unlikely Saka would start against Costa Rica on Wednesday in England's final warm-up game before the tournament begins. Also in football, and Ben Davies has signed a new 12-month deal at Tottenham Hotspur to extend his stay at the club into a 13th season. The Wales captain only made 5 appearances during an injury-ravaged last season, but he was praised by Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi for his leadership during a tense and ultimately successful relegation battle in the Premier League. Moving on to golf now, and at Live Golf, Chief Executive Scott O'Neill refused to be drawn on whether the league's remaining events of 2026 will take place, as he outlined the scramble for post-Saudi investment. O'Neill is seeking $300 million from outside backers to keep the breakaway circuit afloat. That's after Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund announced plans to withdraw funding at the end of the year, having invested more than £4 billion since 2022. Speaking on this, though, O'Neill said, "I've had 5 formal meetings so far. I've got 18 more this week and about the same next week. What's been really interesting is how you slice this. Is it one partner, maybe a big private equity firm, coming in for the full $300 million, or do you have 10 or 12 investors at 50 or 25 million? And finally, finishing in cricket, and Liam Livingstone fired an unbeaten 85 from just 31 deliveries as he guided Lancashire Lightning to a 7-wicket rain-affected win over Durham. Livingstone had earlier had bowling figures of 1 for 19 as he removed Alex Lees to end a 76-run opening stand as Durham posted 128 for 2 from their 10 overs after winning the toss. Livingstone, he then hit 14 boundaries, including 8 maximums in his extraordinary knock as Lancashire chased down their victory target with 5 balls to spare. The Lightning do remain bottom of the North Group despite their second win of the season, although they have moved level on points with Durham. Elsewhere in the Blast and Northamptonshire Steelbacks, they continued their perfect start to the competition with a 6-wicket win at home to Worcestershire Rapids. In a match reduced to 18 overs aside by the wet weather, Gareth Roderick top scored for the visitors with 47 off 32 balls in a total of 154 for 5. Steelbacks captain David Willey hit 3 sixes and 4 fours and a knock of 47 before an unbeaten 26 from Justin Broad helped the leaders to a 6th successive win with 12 balls remaining. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sporting headlines. I'm James Mason. We're beginning at football, and Marco Silva has agreed to become Benfica's new head coach. That's as the Portuguese club formalised Jose Mourinho's departure for Real Madrid. Silva, he ended his 5-year stint as Fulham boss a week ago when his contract at Craven Cottage expired. Benfica said they had reached an agreement with Silva, who is set to sign a contract until the end of the 2027-28 season, which can be extended to the 2028-29 campaign. Sticking in football, and Bukayo Saka is an injury worry for England just days ahead of the World Cup. The Three Lions boss Thomas Tuchel confirmed that Arsenal winger has been struggling with an Achilles issue and cannot take part in every training session. Tuchel also confirmed it was unlikely Saka would start against Costa Rica on Wednesday in England's final warm-up game before the tournament begins. Also in football, and Ben Davies has signed a new 12-month deal at Tottenham Hotspur to extend his stay at the club into a 13th season. The Wales captain only made 5 appearances during an injury-ravaged last season, but he was praised by Spurs boss Roberto De Zerbi for his leadership during a tense and ultimately successful relegation battle in the Premier League. Moving on to
their national anthems, with of course the crowd inside the Estadio Azteca, largely and predominantly made up of those in green and white of the home side, Mexico. As the national anthems continue, I'll just run you through the lineups then for this prestigious opening game of the tournament. Mexico manager Javier Aguirre, in his third stint as Mexico boss. He also managed them at the 2002 and 2010 World Cups. He's also managed Japan and Egypt, and he's got himself a little bit of a reputation as a firefighter of a manager in Spain. He has named a couple of familiar faces in terms of English football, most notably Raul Jimenez leading the line. There's no starts though for captain Edson Alvarez, nor is there for the youngest player at the entire tournament, the 17-year-old midfielder Gilberto Mora is on the bench, but he has gone with a very experienced side. It's Rangel in goal. It's a back four from right to left of Reyes, the captain Montes, Vasquez and Gallardo. 3 in midfield. The holding midfielder is Lira, with Gutierrez and Fidalgo supporting, and it's Quinones and Alvaro up top with Jimenez. South Africa boss Hugo Bruce was appointed in 2021. South Africa haven't qualified for a World Cup outside of their hosting in 2010 since 2002. Of course, they hosted Mexico for the opening game of the 2010 World Cup. That was a 1-1 draw after that famous or infamous goal from Tshabalala to open the scoring in the tournament. And again, a couple of familiar faces, although they do have a squad which is made up almost entirely of players playing in the top flight in South Africa. They've named 6 players from Mamelodi Sundowns, the African Champions League winners Apologies. They've named 4 non-South Africa League players in their squad, and a couple of those start this evening. The captain is Williams, and he's in goal. The back 5 of Madau, Okon, Sibisi, Mbukazi and Mobida. 3 in midfield. It's Mokoena, Sithole and Adams, with Reyners and Foster of Burnley up top. It's myself, Tom Wilson, delighted to be joined by Ben White for this one. And of course, so much build-up, Ben. We've had days, weeks, months, years to look forward to the opening game. Now that it's finally here, Mexico versus South Africa. What are you looking forward to, not just tonight, but the tournament on the whole?
Yeah, good evening, Tom. We've had to wait quite the time, as you say. Well, if anything, as well, slightly less than the traditional 4 years, given that Qatar was in the December of 2022. So 3.5 years, but it felt much longer than that. And as you say, we're finally here now to witness the greatest footballing competition on the planet. And well, it's certainly a tough group, Group A. There's plenty of willing competitors to finish in the top 2 or to be one of the best placed third. The best 8 of the 12 can of course progress to the next round, but with every World Cup there's such anticipation, such hope that there'll be great football on display. And well, it's a real cathedral of this sport, the Estadio Azteca, the Mexico City Stadium, to lay host to the opener of this 2026 edition. Of course, cast your minds back 16 years ago, this was the opener in South Africa. A famous game there as well, as you mentioned, Sifiwe Shabalala, with such a well-remembered goal, particularly for those in South Africa. And there's a chance for these two to lock horns again tonight.
Yeah, and of course the Azteca hosted a couple of World Cups. Mexico actually become the only nation to have hosted the World Cup on 3 occasions. The famous goal of the century scored by Diego Maradona, which of course was in the same game as the Hand of God goal, was at the Azteca. Of course, Argentina went on to win that 1986 World Cup. They also hosted in 1970 as well. The game's still not kicked off, by the way. Nearly 5 minutes past the time that we were supposed to. The 2 captains, Montes and Williams, are just shaking hands with the referee and the assistants, and getting ready to decide which side will be going in which direction. Mexico in their green shirt with the white trim, the white shorts and the white socks. South Africa in the very familiar bright yellow with the green trim. It's a very vibrant kit. South Africa, of course, the away side technically in the game. It'd be a big test for them, as both sets of players just creating a circled huddle, discussing, motivating and getting ready for this huge occasion this evening. And again, we'll just have a quick look at the lineups. Of course, Raul Jimenez leading the line for Mexico, and Lyle Foster for South Africa. Both now, of course, playing in the Championship, in the second division in English football. Jimenez just re-signed for Wolves, who of course were relegated. He moved there from Fulham. And of course, he had moved initially from Wolves. And Lyle Foster playing his trade for Burnley, who themselves have just been relegated. But the game is just about to get kicked off. Mexico will get us going for the FIFA 2026 World Cup. They're going from left to right in the opening 45 minutes. South Africa from right to left. Our Brazilian referee, Wilton Sampaio, has blown his whistle, and off we go. Mexico have kicked us off. Ball towards the left-hand side then for Jesus Gallardo. Yeah, strides forward, brings it back towards halfway. Mexico in safe possession. I think it's fair to say, Ben, that it will be the hosts that will largely dominate possession. South Africa, a team which rely on their counter-attacks.
Yeah, absolutely, and the home factor, if you will, as well, of course, is being shared amongst 3 nations, but no bigger boost to the Mexican players that they can be a part of the opener in front of such a huge stadium of the Azteca, 80,000+ in attendance, and as you mentioned in the build-up, the vast majority in green and white, just controlling possession over on this right-hand side. It's a defensive shape that the South Africans are opting for at the moment, but as you mentioned, they can be incisive on the counter. They had a brilliant qualifying campaign, and well, for an opener, it's anybody's guess really. Finished 1-1 16 years ago, who knows this time?
Yeah, South Africa a very good but very chaotic qualification period. They beat Lesotho 2-0 in one of their qualifying games, but it turned out that they'd actually played a suspended player in Teboho Mokena. And as such, that result was stripped from them. They were dropped 3 points, but they still managed to qualify at the top of Group C. They just narrowly pipped Nigeria, who, of course, rather unexpectedly didn't qualify for the World Cup. That was after South Africa had beat Rwanda by 3-0, and Benin, who were top of the group, then lost to Nigeria. So Nigeria doing them a favour on that occasion. South Africa won the ball back just 2 minutes in. Mexico 0, South Africa 0. It's back towards the captain Williams inside his own goal. It's an immediate press on from Mexico, but South Africa have played out of that press quite well. Ball still inside their own half though on that right hand side. It's Madao who had looked forward there to try and play a ball over the top where there was a run being made, but cooler heads have prevailed. He's gone backwards again to the captain Williams in goal, one of the 6 Mamelodi Sundowns players in the 11 this evening. It's with Embo Kazi. I'm excited to see how Mexico look off the ball. A team known for their intense pressing. Of course, a problem there. It's only gone out for a throw-in, but immediately, Ben, South Africa only had the ball for about 45 seconds or so. We can see the energy from Mexico out of possession.
Yeah, and even the manager there, Javier Aguirre, appreciating the effort from his players so far. The opening minutes really can be crucial at times. You want to sort of continue the atmosphere that began in the opening ceremony, in the build-up, and an intense first few minutes just keeps that noise going around the Azteca. And well, this early foul conceded and awarded by Wilton Sampaio is in a promising position for the Mexicans, and well, could serve the opportunity for the first chance of the game.
Yeah, strong challenge there from Aubrey Mobida. Results in the first free kick, first foul of the game. 3 minutes in, Mexico 0, South Africa 0. 2 players in green standing over it, discussing how to make the most of this situation. Brian Gutierrez and Roberto Alvarado, who both play in Mexico for Guadalajara. It's the former who raises his arm in the air, Gutierrez, a right footer, waiting for the referee's all clear. Here it comes with the referee's whistle, and it is Gutierrez who goes for goal, hits the wall and immediately bounces away for a throw. But a first shot of the game, and I suppose you've got to rate the confidence, even if the result wasn't quite what he was looking for.
Well, yeah, 3.5 minutes in, and he's already trying to make the headlines there with it's an audacious effort, really. There's only 2 in the wall. Whether you're trying to get it over or around, it's a mystery, really. Hit the shins of the 2 South African defenders. But yeah, very promising start for Mexico. 4 minutes in, and well, you can already see there the referee Wilton Sampaio counting in the throw-in, one of the many new rules implicated in this tournament.
Yeah, ball into the area from the right-hand side. It drops towards the edge of the box and a shot comes in, and it's a brilliant save from Williams. Well, so much talk ahead of this tournament that the goalkeeper for South Africa would be crucial. 4 minutes in, and he's denied what would have been a brilliant opening goal of the World Cup. It's Raul Jimenez who hit it.
And he couldn't hit it sweeter, really. It's bounced at the right height. He's hit it on the volley, and well, Williams gets down quickly to that far corner. They're already ready to take this corner as well, Mexico.
Yeah, first corner of the game, in towards the front post. Goalkeeper comes, punches. It's not convincing. It's still alive for Mexico as it sweeps back in towards the far post. The heads go up. Jimenez battling for it. It's poked away eventually, and it's not cleared convincingly. Mexico have re-won possession as South Africa now look to break. They are in possession, ball on halfway. Can they find a man in behind here? They're just being held up by recovering Mexican defenders, but here they come, South Africa. Down the left-hand side, Foster tried to play it through to his teammate Reyners, but he's got that one all wrong. It dribbles through to the goalkeeper, but all of a sudden, the opening game of the 2026 FIFA World Cup has sparked to life.
It really has, yeah. Mexico wasted no time on taking that corner. We're getting a chance now to see another replay of the effort from Raul Jimenez. Such experience behind him. There's youth, of course, in attack for Mexico as well, but opting for Jimenez. And then, well, you mentioned it in the early minutes as well, that South Africa can be potent on the counter, and we almost saw it there. The pass came too late, though. It looked as though had the teammate been met, he was in an offside position, but an early warning sign for Mexico, but certainly an early warning sign for South Africa with that effort from Jimenez.
Ball in central midfield, though, for South Africa, now on halfway. Foster tries to play it over, and again it's a miss here, or rather a poorly communicated link-up play from Burnley's Lyle Foster. He's overhit that one, and it's out of play on the far side for a Mexico throw, but he will be pivotal. Foster had a brilliant qualification campaign. In fact, he's got a really good record for South Africa on the whole. 27 appearances for his country, 10 goals in the most recent AFCON, which they qualified for, which they've qualified for 2 in a row actually, 2023 and 2025. He in 4 games he scored 2 and assisted 2, so he will be pivotal for South Africa in this game and in the tournament, no matter how far they go. 6.5 minutes in, Mexico 0, South Africa 0. You're listening to Off-Tube, independent studio-based commentary. Raul Jimenez has hit the target for Mexico early on, but a brilliant stop from Ronan Williams in goal. Here come Mexico down the left-hand side. Gallardo has been flying forward already on that left flank. He tries to beat his man. It's good defending though from the fullback Mudau. It's out for another corner despite the protests from the defender, but Gallardo already basically playing as a left winger on that far side.
Yeah, it really is. Four-back formation, but he's happy to get far down that left flank. Has the referee given a goal kick? Ultimately, I think he has. Yep. He believes that the final touch did come off of Gallardo, but once again he's counting the seconds down for this goal kick to be taken. There's, of course, pressure, if you will, on the referees to start off this tournament with the new rules put in place, and let it be known that they will be keeping a keen eye on those proceedings. Yeah,
and you do wonder, as the tournament goes into its deeper stages, what effect will that have on those players who've had long domestic campaigns, and as well those players that are maybe not used to playing in the sort of conditions that they will be asked to at this tournament. And of course it's an array of conditions as well. We speak about North America as if it's this tiny little part of the world. It's absolutely huge, from the top of Canada to the bottom of Mexico. It's the conditions, the altitudes, they vary so much. So that, as well as these new rules, are going to be a real test, especially maybe for teams like England who are not used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, the climate can vary so much, and if there's certain nations that maybe playing their matches in Canada, for example, will they be suited better than those that may be playing in Mexico, for example? We saw in the friendly for England against Costa Rica that it was threatened with abandonment before the ball had been kicked with the heavy rain in Orlando. Seemed as though the pitch did drain quite quickly, but there have been a few weather warnings already in the continent of North America, yet to be seen if it will impact on matches. And again, Mexico press.
Yeah, the ball's been stolen back by Mexico. Big chance, and the opening goal of the World Cup. And it's Mexico who've scored it. Mistake at the back is disastrous for South Africa. Off that left-hand side, they've had one chance already denied by the goalkeeper. Absolutely no chance. He was rooted to the spot. It's a celebration for the home side. The Azteca Stadium are in raptures, and it's the home side who go in front. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Julian Quinones, I think it was, who got the goal, but it's all down to the mistake from South Africa.
Well, what a moment for Quinones. He'll remember that for the rest of his life, the opening goal in a World Cup. But it's such a gift. South Africa trying to play out the back, but as soon as that pass was played into the midfield, there were 3 or 4 green shirts in the vicinity, and it's a simple pass for Quinones. The heavy touch, won back well in the midfield by Lira, and Quinones, well, he doesn't even look at the ball when he's striking, and it goes through the legs of Williams into the back of the net. That is only his 3rd goal for Mexico. Scored bags of goals for Alcazia in club football this season, so he comes in with hot form, and inside 10 minutes we've already seen the opener in this tournament.
Yeah, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Lift-off in Mexico City. There's another foul there in central midfield. Another referee changed his mind, actually. He's put his whistle to his mouth and didn't blow it. Mexico won the ball back, so they'll be very happy about that. But now Raul Jimenez is offside, so it will be a free kick this time to South Africa. 10 minutes in, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. The opening goal of the tournament. And it's gone to Mexico, of course, the reverse of the fixture that opened the 2010 World Cup. It was the hosts then, South Africa, who scored first, and Mexico were able to peg them back. But these are 2 very different sides to the ones that played in that 2010 World Cup. We said it was a mistake from South Africa, which I think it was, Ben, but we've already mentioned the intense pressure that Mexico have put South Africa under out of possession. You mentioned Eric Lira there. He was he is one of the stars of this Mexico side, plays for Cruz Azul, and it was his intensity and his pressing that caused that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw it from minute 1 really from Mexico, and you see that often in big games like this in front of a home crowd where the atmosphere certainly helps the players in giving that extra bit, particularly to get those early challenges in and just show your opponents that you're really up for this one, as you suspected they would be. But yeah, they've already been rewarded so early on. As you mentioned, it's the mirror image really of 2010, where South Africa got their moment with the opener from Shabalala. That was 10 minutes into the second half. This was 10 minutes into the first, and well, it's up to South Africa now to try and find a response, but it has been really one-way traffic. South Africa haven't had a touch in the attacking penalty area as of yet. They did get a half opportunity, but there was a misplaced pass. But yeah, full credit to Lila there, who won the ball back, and really that was the main reason for the goal.
Yeah, South Africa with an opportunity to put some pressure on Mexico in possession now, but they smartly played out of that pressure. Roll Rangel out towards the right-hand side for Reyes, and then infield. An interesting ball there from this right-hand side of Lira over towards Vasquez. He plays for Genoa. It's back to Lira. He's a real holding midfielder, but clearly a presser as well, who caused a problem or two for that goal. Ball over the top for Jimenez, who's done well to keep it in. And he's knocked it off the recovering South African defender. It's out for another corner.
Yeah, Mudau is having a lot of work to do on the right-hand side. Not only if Gallardo was going up that left flank, but Jimenez drifting into the channels, and it did seem a lost battle for him, but credit to the veteran keeping it in and also winning that corner. It's been a few over on that side, and Mexico just keep turning the screw. Yeah,
corner, 12.5 minutes in. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. It's going to be an away swinger this time. It's Gallardo who's gone across to take it in towards the front post. There's a free man there, the head goes up rather than towards goal there from Raul Jimenez, but he was almost unmarked there, the Wolves man, as it's collected by Williams pretty comfortably in the end. He just found a yard.
Yeah, he did. Poor defending, really. Did he get underneath the ball? Maybe the flight stayed up longer than he thought. There was an attempted through ball there from South Africa to try and get Reyners through, but overhit and collected by Rangel at the other end. Yeah, decent chance there for Jimenez, particularly of his calibre, but heading it upwards rather than goal bound.
13 and a bit minutes gone. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. You're listening to Off-Tube Independent Studio-based commentary. If you're just joining us, Julian Quinones has opened the scoring of the game and of the tournament as it goes back towards Rangel in goal for Mexico, out towards the far side for Gallardo, who has reinvented himself on a couple of occasions as a footballer. Came through as a winger at Pumas. Now, of course, plays at full-back on paper for this Mexico side, but so far in the opening quarter of an hour or so, he's been about as close to Raul Jimenez as he has been to his defenders. As South Africa win the ball back due to a failed long ball, and now they have an opportunity to put a couple of passes together. They've never got out of the group stages of a World Cup, and this is their third attempt, of course, their second being when they hosted in 2010. Ball over top on the right-hand side. He was looking for Mudau, but couldn't bring the ball under his spell. And it goes out for a Mexico throw-in. It feels to me so far, Ben, I'm not sure if you agree, feels like there's a little bit of disjointedness in this South Africa side, particularly between midfield and attack.
Yeah, from the early minutes, maybe the alarm was already ringing, and of course punished with that goal. They just haven't got going in attack. The referee, I think, is going to bring the game to a halt as there is a Mexico player down. Maybe he has given the free kick in favour of the Mexicans, but yeah, South Africa need to switch on. Really, they. Of course, trailing in this game so early on, so there's still 75 minutes to go, but we've not seen anything from them in terms of attack, really. It was always going to be a challenge on paper against a much stronger opponent, and in the Azteca with 95% of the crowd against you. Just looking at a referee view, wearing a camera today, the official, and an angle thereof. Julian Quinones' goal, and coolly dispatched from him. And Mexico get their moment early on, don't they? World Cup can be about moments, and for the home crowd, and there will have been pressure around the players to start their group off strongly. They've certainly done so.
Ball out towards the right-hand side. Brian Gutierrez making himself a nuisance. A couple of players in yellow and green, though, to deal with, and in the end, after losing possession there, Gutierrez, he has fouled his man, so it will be a free kick to South Africa. And Gutierrez, as previously mentioned, for Guadalajara. And one of the other players that we just mentioned, one of the central midfielders, in fact, Alvaro Fidalgo, a Real Madrid graduate, and played for Spain at youth level, played for Real Madrid B, almost 100 appearances in the league for the second string side in Madrid. And he's only played 4 times before today, for Mexico. Out towards the far right-hand side for Madu. Back in field then to Sithole. Across centrally, and South Africa building slowly towards the final third. A ball in behind there's been cannoned off a Mexico man, but South Africa keep possession after picking it back up. Left-hand side, sweeping ball into the area. Nodded away, though, comfortably by Vasquez, and then brought down by Lira. That's good football, but good pressing from South Africa. A little bit too overzealous, though, says our referee, Sim Pound. It's going to be the first yellow card of the game, first yellow card of the tournament. And it's gone to one of their star players, I think it's Taboho Mokaena, who was trying to win the ball back there, trying to give Mexico a taste of their own medicine. And just a little bit too late.
Yeah, too late, and I think too forceful really into the challenge. There was no need to lunge in there on Fidalgo. Maybe frustration settling in already. There was a poor pass as South Africa were trying to build an attack prior to that, and Mexico looked to break. I think it's the correct decision from Wilton Sampaio, but a very early yellow card for one of the three in midfield for South Africa. And well, at least they've won back possession from that to free kick.
Yeah, Mokaena, absolutely essential to this South Africa side. He was the player, in fact, that they played in qualification who was suspended, which led to that 3-point deduction. I think he took a huge toll from that. Of course, he's not to blame, not all to blame at least. It's the federation who should be looking at that sorts of thing, but he's had to come back from some real criticism from South African supporters. Hopefully he can regain the favour, apologies, of any which he hasn't already in this World Cup. Mexico won, South Africa 0, 18 minutes in. It was Quinones with the goal before the 10-minute mark. And Mexico lead the opening game of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. If you are just joining us and you're wondering why we're only in the 18th minute or so, despite the fact it's 23 minutes past the hour, there was a bit of a late kick-off as the various festivities before the game began. There's two opening ceremonies, so that's going to take some time, isn't it, to get through. But Mexico in possession, ball over halfway up towards Jimenez, wins his header, flicks it on, but no one there in green and white for Mexico to get on the end of. I think I said earlier that they're in the white socks, definitely not they're in red socks, Mexico, but there is some white on there as it's through to Williams in goal, who, well, probably was full of confidence up until the opening goal, but after that save, the early save, I'm sure goalkeepers want to get that out of the way, don't they? And it was a really smart stop to deny Raul Jimenez, and then the effort for the goal through his legs. Yeah,
and he'd be disappointed with that one. It was only a few minutes after the save, and arguably it was an easier one compared to the effort from Jimenez. Mexico coming down this right-hand side, but South Africa get their bodies. However, they can concede possession.
Yeah, Alvaro supported by Reyes forwards towards the edge of the area, and it's the goal scorer Quinones who hits one from distance. It's wide and high in the end, but he's certainly, we mentioned the confidence of Williams potentially, but he's certainly full of confidence. If he hasn't already grabbed the headlines, he tried to again then. It's actually not too far away.
No, it's not at all. Williams was confident it was wide, and ultimately he was right, but it's almost hit the stanchion behind, really. Not too far away at all. Really positive start from them. 20 minutes on the clock, and what's Wilton Sampaio doing here? The goal kick may be taken with a Mexico player in the area, but again, South Africa are forced to take the goal kick quicker than they may have wanted to, so Jimenez is trying to pounce on that. The press isn't stopping really from Mexico.
Yeah, it's another 1 or 2% that teams will try and eke out of this World Cup, given the new laws, the new rules, in which, as Ben mentioned, goal kicks have to be taken that bit quicker, and that is just leading to a real front press from Mexico this evening. 20 minutes gone, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Quinones with the opening goal after 9 minutes. Williams has also denied Raul Jimenez before then. South Africa have had very little so far in front of goal, but they are in possession. Ball down the right-hand side towards halfway. Madal, that's nice round the corner. Here's Sithole striding forward, looking for Foster, and again it's disjointed as play breaks down, and Mexico have won it back. That's good feet there from the captain Montez. A sliding challenge comes in, could be another yellow card, The referee's had a good look at that. He's not gone to his pocket just yet, but you feel that maybe he's a little bit lucky there. I think it's Mudau again with the sliding challenge, trying to track back, trying to make up the yards. It's a bit of a lunge.
And he's on completely the opposite end of the pitch there as well, the right back. Mexico counter again. He considered maybe whether he'd swap flanks, but he's gone back to his right back position. As you say, there's an argument that it could be another yellow card in the game already for South Africa, and then there's some appeals afterwards from other players towards Wilton Sampaio. The game just getting under their skin a bit at the moment.
22 minutes again. There's another foul on halfway. Referee plays advantage as Quinones pokes it forward. Jimenez picks it up. Out towards this right-hand side now for Alvaro, supported by Gutierrez with the underlapping run, but it's a ball into the area looking for Jimenez, headed away by South Africa. They've just about brought it down on the edge of the area, but again the press is causing problems for them. Here's Foster near halfway, tries to poke it through the legs of the defender. In the end, it's just going to be a throw for South Africa on this near right-hand side. 22 minutes gone, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. It will be Mbokazi, the only player in the squad to play football in one of the host nations for South Africa. He plays for Chicago Fire in the MLS, so I'm sure he will be well known to those in North America. But out towards this left-hand side for Mbokazi once again, has a look forward, fires one into the final third. It's a hopeful one really. The goalkeeper's made a meal of it. He's flapped at it. That means that South Africa are back in possession. Ball into the area though is blocked. They want handball. Referee not interested. Mexico able to clear. Nearly a mistake at the back there from Mexico this time. I mean, it was a nothing ball really over the top.
It would have been a right gift from Rangel towards South Africa. They're appealing for a foul on the right hand side, and the linesman, well, he took his time and he's eventually awarded it. It looked as though the Achilles was snapped at there by Mexican players. Gutierrez that has gone into the book, one apiece now. Brian Gutierrez, the 22-year-old, and well, all it took was a goalkeeping error, and all of a sudden Mexico were panicking. The second phase really was then won by South Africa, and well, it doesn't take much, does it?
It doesn't take much. No, I think for me, he's gone in. The South African man realises that he's slid in, but he hasn't caught him, and then he's gone down. There's nothing really on. That's what it looked like at least, but the referee's bought it.
Yeah, just based on the reaction of the player, it looked worse than it was. I think just there's the trailing shin that goes onto the heel of Mokoena on that side. But the referee, or at least the linesman on that near side, right under his nose, has given the free kick, and it's an invitation really for South Africa to attack at this one.
Yep, really dangerous position. 24 minutes in, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. It'd be a really good moment to score for South Africa to equalise this evening. The referee just having a word with Lyle Foster, Wilton Sampaio, as he will certainly be the target man from this set piece. It's a free kick which is almost level with the edge of the area on that right hand side, but it's so close to the touchline. It's just a couple of yards away as it comes in. It's an away swinger towards a front post. It's nodded clear by Vasquez. It's going to be picked up by Mbokazi, back in towards the danger area. Foster's there, but it's nodded clear by Mexico. Quinones, the goal scorer, picks it up, tries to clear, deflected from a South African man. It's going to go out for a goal kick. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Well, we're into the 25th minute of the game. You're listening to Off-Tube Independent Studio-based commentary. I think that is a drink break. Yes, it is. Hydration break for the two players, and then that gives me the perfect opportunity to hand over to Ben. He'll take you through to half-time.
Indeed it does. Cheers, Tom. As released by FIFA, hydration breaks for every match in the tournament, and could serve really as an important moment for South Africa, who have just grown in the game in the last minute or two. Just allows that opportunity for Hugo Broos, the South African manager, 74 years of age now, is the boss, and a few wise words will hope to be received by his players. The boss for 5 years now of South Africa, international experience as well for Cameroon between 2016 and 2017, and a Belgian international between the mid-70s and 80s. The second game of this group will of course take place later this evening, if you will. It'll be 5 hours from now, or at least 5 hours after the end of this game. 3 AM UK time kick-off between South Korea and the Czech Republic, as this hydration break also allows an opportunity for another replay, a reverse angle of the goal from Quinones. And you can just see there really the reaction from Williams. His teammate Sitole just allowing some comfort for him, because he will be frustrated with that one going through his legs. It's always a frustrating one for the goalkeeper, and particularly, as we say, it was only a few minutes after what was an impressive save.
Yeah, I think it's tough, isn't it, when you don't expect your players in front of you to lose the ball, Ben, and then they do. You have to react immediately. So if you're not set, when that shot comes in, of course, at this level, everyone can hit a ball sweetly, can hit it with power. That's exactly what Quinones does. And I imagine as well that the goalkeepers probably aren't used to attackers from that sort of range shooting almost at them. You know, it's gone through his legs because he probably wasn't expecting it. He was probably bracing himself to dive to one of the corners. Quinones, whether he's meant to or not, he has gone straight down the middle through the goalkeeper's legs and then into the back of the net. But we've seen already that Quinones is a very capable player. Had that effort as well a few minutes ago, which sort of at first glance didn't look like much, but on the replay certainly may have caused a problem had it been just 2 or 3 inches to the left. So yeah, really good start for Mexico, but you can see there are flashes in the South Africa side which can cause problems for Mexico. They too have got energy out of possession. They too can cause problems. I still just think that this maybe it's a little bit of nerves potentially. Not used to playing at this level. I mentioned before they've only got 4 players who don't play football in South Africa, so they're a very inexperienced side internationally. And maybe it's just a little bit of that which just caused them to look a little bit disjointed in the opening 27 minutes or so.
Yeah, and over the years they have had some world-renowned players, Lucas Radebe, Stephen Pienaar, Benny McCarthy as well, and maybe they're just lacking that focal figure in this particular World Cup edition. Mexico get play back underway with a goal kick that is sent long. Just in the hydration break, saw plenty of colour, joy and noise in the Estadio Azteca, mainly of Mexican supporters, but we saw a sprinkling of South African fans in and amongst the home support as well. Let's not forget that this is only their 4th appearance in a World Cup finals. It's the first time that they've qualified for the tournament since 2002. Of course, they were granted a position in 2010 as being the hosts, but 24 years since the joint host of South Korea and Japan, where they qualified on merit. So there's certainly no regulars in this competition. Flip that with Mexico. This is their 9th consecutive appearance in the World Cup finals, 18th in total. Incidentally, they are the team that hold the record for the most matches played in World Cup history without ever lifting the trophy. 60 matches, and it will be some tall order to lift it in this edition, but it's anybody's guess at the moment in a World Cup that has plenty of suitors. Here is Quinones, the scorer of the only goal so far, with 29 minutes on the clock. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Possession on the left-hand side with Gallardo back for Quinones, who will play it all the way back into defence. It will allow a chance for Reyners to put the pressure on both Vasquez and Rangel, as the goalkeeper does well on this occasion after a nervy moment 3 or 4 minutes ago, to play it back to the left-hand side, where in truth a lot of the attacks have come from Mexico. They have looked down the right as well with the likes of Reyes and Alvarado. That was where the chance for Raul Jimenez was created, but the goal, a slice of fortune with a mistake at the back from South Africa, as Mexico in the penalty area again. A strike comes towards goal from Gutierrez. There's a yellow shirt in the way to make the block. And as soon as South Africa win possession there, they are looking to play the counter in the long ball, looking for Reyners, but the pass has to be spot on really, and it's been rather easy for the Mexican defence so far.
Yeah, absolutely. The pass hasn't been spot on, Ben. They haven't had that sort of killer moment really. That their best looking opportunity was a mistake at the back from Mexico. It wasn't something that they created themselves at South Africa. They do just look a little bit of a drop in quality compared to Mexico so far, just half an hour in. But as I say, maybe they just need something to give them some confidence, a flash at goal, or even a corner or a free kick, just to create some problems.
It doesn't take much. However, they are almost repeating that mistake as they hold on to the ball a bit too long in defence. Bukazi was nearly dispossessed by Gutierrez, who is on a yellow card but isn't going to shirk away from pressing on the South African defence. He is part of a 4-man midfield, but out of possession he is a bit more advanced than Fidalgo. Of course, Lira sitting in the defensive midfield position, as we do indeed tick beyond the half an hour mark in the Mexican capital. Here is Montes back for Vasquez now. Still so long remaining in this game, and indeed the tournament for South Africa. They will be frustrated with the start, but picking up points in later games could serve them a chance of progressing still. It is a unique World Cup edition where the best 8 placed third place finishers will advance to the knockout round. And with games to come against South Korea and Czechia, the Czech Republic, there's plenty of time to make amends. But for Mexico, so far so good as one of the 3 host nations. Here is Rangel, the goalkeeper, back for Montez. South Africa looking to apply some pressure, albeit not as intense compared to that of the Mexicans. Lyle Foster with the attempt as it's launched forward and retrieved by Sibisi in the back line for South Africa. Out to the left for Bokazi. Back 3 for them. It has allowed Mudau to get higher up the pitch, but really it's only been a case of defensive duties for him so far, given the start from the tricolor of Mexico. Bokazi now back on the left hand side. At least some possession now for South Africa, and they don't really need to rush into it, do they, Tom? There is still an hour of football to go. A half an hour that has flown by, really, one that has been dominated by Mexico, but we did see that the mistake from Rangel, from a simple long ball which has now been played again, it should be kept in fact, so we'll hold on to that thought for a moment, as they do win that first corner of the game, although the flag has gone up for offside. They are playing direct though, aren't they? And it's getting them into some promising positions, just maybe lacking that little bit of quality. Indeed, they was quite far offside there, Madiba.
Yeah, Mbokazi's seen a little bit more of the ball in the last few minutes. I think that's a really smart thing from a South Africa perspective, because he looks really calm and collected on the ball. Looks like he's got a lovely left foot as well. It was his pass there that went over the top, but as you say, Mobida just slightly mistimed his run. He's one of the more experienced players in this South Africa squad. In fact, he's got the most appearances of anyone in the 11 this afternoon, this evening, besides the goalkeeper Williams. So, yeah, 44, 45 appearances now for his country. Mobida, he might be key to helping them get back in this. But certainly down this left-hand side, they've looked, at least in the last sort of 5, 6, 7 minutes, to try and make something work.
Which clocks my first Mexican wave from the Mexican support in the Azteca, and why wouldn't they be joyous with the start they've made? And indeed, when it comes to their opening matches in the World Cup, they so often can celebrate. They are unbeaten in the last 7 tournament openers, 5 wins and 2 draws since the 1994 edition, and looking to continue that streak in 2026. Here is Mbokazi in the attacking half for the South Africans. For Mokoena, who plays a good ball forward. There's some space now for South Africa to attack. Here's Foster in the area, looking to hold up play, and again, just that lack of quality. Foster just couldn't get out of his feet there. There was a good ball played in field. I believe it was towards Reyners, who were dropped into the number 10 role, if you will, and it did get Mexico panicking.
Yeah, he's been the focal point, and he is the focal point, isn't he, Lyle Foster? But not to be too critical of him, 34 minutes into the game, but he's had 3 opportunities, Ben, to play that ball over towards the right hand side, and on 3 occasions it's gone out for a throw-in. It isn't working at the minute for South Africa. I'm not saying that's all down to Lyle Foster, but 3 passes, 3 opportunities to come forward, and they've failed to do so because he couldn't find his man. Here come Mexico.
He's only one of 2 players to score double-digit goals for South Africa, is Lyle Foster. The other on 12 being Temba Zwane, who does play in the domestic division for Mamelodi Sundowns. As you mentioned, so many that do play in their home nation. Mexico with an attacking throw-in now on this right-hand side with 10 minutes remaining of this first half. It will be Reyes to take. I think they were counting 5 seconds there. It felt a bit longer, but here goes Alvarado on the right-hand side. Played in now to Fidalgo. Quiñones as Gallardo makes the overlapping run, and he has found there's 2 options in the middle, and it's a solid interception from Williams. It would have been a tap-in right on the goal line there for Raul Jimenez. Mexico looking fluid once more. Yeah,
it's really good from the goalkeeper on this occasion. Doesn't just get there, Ben, but he gets there and holds it as well. So often in those situations it could parry off his arm and potentially fall to a man in green, but he does really well to hold on to it, and he'll take some confidence from that. But again, Mexico, and again it's down that left hand side where Gallardo's been a real threat, and as you say, Jimenez just lurking inside the area. A player who's played 124 times for his country, scored 45 goals. He'll be certainly looking to increase that number at this World Cup, and as you say, had that gone through to him, it might have just been a tap-in.
Yeah, arriving at this tournament as a Fulham player, now transferred back to Wolverhampton Wanderers. 9 goals last season for the Cottagers. Will be dropping down into the Championship, but a very welcome signing for Wolves supporters, who of course will see a new manager at the helm next season as well. So plenty of change for them there, but Jimenez looking lively in this World Cup so far. No shots of any description at the moment for South Africa. They've really struggled to create anything meaningful, and Mexico in full control of this game with 9 minutes remaining in this first half. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Here is Gallardo, played in field now for Lira, providing the assist of that opening goal. Here's Vasquez now in the centre circle. We can see Javier Aguirre there, right on the edge of his technical area. He's certainly a veteran himself as well. His opposing number, the 74-year-old Hugo Broos. Aguirre, 67 years, 7 years Broos's junior, but plenty of experience to his name. He did play for Mexico, 59 caps for them, and third occasion managing Mexico, 2002, 2010, and since 2024 in this third edition. So we're no stranger to a World Cup appearance for Mexico, both as a player and indeed a manager. Here's Bokazi for South Africa. There's 2 in the area as the ball is played in, and there is the first shot of the game for the South Africans, and it's Lyle Foster meeting the delivery with his head, but directing it wide by a few yards.
Yeah, really good movement though from Foster inside the area. He just got between the two centre halves. You can see in the replay there, I think Johan Vasquez is looking sort of over his shoulder a little bit worryingly, hoping that Foster doesn't quite make contact with the ball, because he is pretty much free inside the box, and that's exactly what happened. He doesn't really get the purchase on it that he would have needed. But it is a little bit better, isn't it, from South Africa? It's something different. And again, it's Bokazi, who we mentioned, has seen a lot of the ball in the last few minutes. It's his ball into the area. I think they need to keep getting him involved.
He's playing on the left side of this back three, but he's got a decent delivery on him, a bit of creativity about the number 14. And despite a disappointing start from them, we can't forget that they had such a strong qualifying campaign, as you mentioned, Tom. Despite their punishments for fielding an ineligible player, they still finished top of their group, ahead of Nigeria, who were, of course, absent from this edition of the tournament, finishing on 18 points. Nigeria on 17, Benin on 17 as well. It went down to the last match day, a 3-0 win against Rwanda, confirming their position in this year's edition, and looking to make it count, and at least they have the first shot to go in their name for Lyle Foster. But Mexico possession now with 6.5 minutes to go in this first half. Fidalgo over to the left for Gallardo. They have been happy to control possession through defence of Mexico, happy to be patient with their minimum 1-0 lead before a ball is played forward by Lira. Hopes of a foul are adhered to by the referee, Wilton Sampaio. Just another late challenge from the South Africans. It looks to be Sitole on this occasion, and no doubt our Brazilian referee is keeping a keen eye on that, because it's certainly not the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been plenty of them, hasn't there? I think maybe a little bit more frustration in that one than there has been previously in the fouls. I think up until this point they've just been a little bit late. They're just trying to press with intensity. I think it's getting to the point now towards the end of the first half where they think we need to really get a goal and get back level, and they've just gone a little bit too hard there. It's really interesting for Mexico though, because I mean, we've mentioned both these sides are so potent on the counter-attack, but you know, Mexico come into the tournament of course as one of the hosts, and that has a more weight to it, doesn't it, than they would if they came in and it wasn't a home tournament. There's more expectation on them, and in this game in particular, they're up against a South Africa side who were never going to come and dominate the ball, at least early on, and particularly not now, given the situation that they're in. But Mexico aren't a team that are used to keeping possession. They too like to play in the counter. We've seen the intensity in the press, and the fact that they're not able to do that because they've got the ball is really interesting. So you have to sort of praise Mexico so far, given that, yes, they've made a couple of mistakes in possession, but none have led to anything too serious. But for a side who aren't used to keeping the ball, they're looking pretty confident and comfortable so far.
Yeah, the two teams who play with a similar style, something had to give, and as you mentioned, it's Mexico that have applied that adaptability to change the way they play, and reaping the rewards so far with 40 minutes on the clock. Bit of a quick back pass there towards Rangel that forces him to launch it long first time. He gets a decent connection on it, at least right to the halfway line. Won back by Alvarado, and Jimenez can send it back to the Mexico midfield. Again, Gallardo is the option on the left. Now Lira Quiñones round the corner, and that's a smart ball to find Gutierrez in a pocket of space. It's played through to Jimenez, but a solid and important interception from Mudau, who was covering in field there. In fact, it was Sabisi, the right-sided centre-half, and he has to get back into position now as Mexico continue. Here's Quiñones once more. Now for Alvarado, who's come narrowly to allow Reyes up the field, the right-back. Alvarado once again. Mexico get into this position. They have plenty of green shirts as options. Mudau with the headed clearance for an in-swinging ball, finds Jimenez, and again it's a smart save from Williams. Well, whether Jimenez got a touch or not, it looked as though the ball could have been curling into that far post, and it's always a difficult one for goalkeepers.
Yeah, it initially comes from quite a hopeful ball really from Lear. Just sort of scoops it up towards the corner of the box on the left hand side because he's under pressure, and they rework it and it's back in towards the box. I don't think he gets a touch on that, Jimenez, so had it gone in it wouldn't have been his goal. But it is a smart stop again from Williams, who's a real rangy goalkeeper. He's got really long arms. We've seen him stop Jimenez once already and denies Mexico once again there.
As they come forward again, Quiñones may be invited to shoot. It takes a couple of deflections. Alvarado pulls it back. Gutierrez, Quiñones again. It's off the post. Well, there was the chance for Mexico's second, and indeed Julian Quiñones' second. It's the width of the upright that saves South Africa with 3 minutes to go in this first half. Mexico concede a foul, Mbokazi wins it, and a frustrating one for the hosts, not only because there was a decent chance there for Quiñones, but they could have had a 2-goal lead before break.
Yeah, absolutely, it could have been that man again, couldn't it? Quiñones, who is actually born in Colombia, played for Colombia at youth level, but requested to change allegiances to Mexico. And I'm sure he's very happy, and I'm sure that Mexican fans are very happy that he did that as well, because it's his goal that's put them in front in the opening game. And as you say, on 2 occasions now he could have doubled his tally, he could have doubled Mexico's lead. He had that one effort which just grazed the side netting at the near post, and this one again at the near post for us at least. It comes off the foot of it and away from goal.
Here he's certainly a player that knows where the back of the net is. 5 consecutive seasons now in club football where he's managed double figures, the lowest being 14 for Atlas Club America, and in the most recent 2 seasons playing for Al Qadsiya in the Saudi Pro League. 33 goals in 31 league appearances last season, more goals than games, and really it's no surprise then that he has started so strong in the tournament this evening. Here now is Mokoena. South Africa look to find a late goal in this first half. Mudau with the ball in, deflected, and it will roll for a corner. So they will have the opportunity to bring the defenders up, the South Africans. There were appeals that Gallardo may have blocked it with a hand, but a corner is enough of a reward. The yellow shirts come forward with less than 2 minutes remaining in this first 45. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. It would be the most opportune moment for Bafana to find an equaliser. Sabisi, one of the many that awaits this set piece to be taken. Mexico with little to defend so far in this half. It's played short towards Mokoena, who does hesitate before a ball is swung in, cleared away by Reyes. Less than a minute to go as a strike comes in from distance, and there was plenty of zip on it from Mbokazi, who's been the player that has caught both of our attentions, Tom. And it's on target, and there's a bit of movement. Rangel was always the favourite, really, to make that save, but a decent effort there. Yeah,
it's another tester, isn't it? And again, it might just be what they need just to build a little bit of confidence. Technically it's a shot on target, isn't it? Albeit a comfortable save for Rangel, but yeah, it's him again. Mbokazi, I mean, maybe they're sort of the makers of their own downfall a little bit, South Africa, in the sense that they've got Mobida, who is the best option at left back or left wing back that they've got, but that clearly Mbokazi's got some ability. Do you maybe even look to put him into midfield later in the game where he can get on the ball a little bit more, because clearly he's got a bit about him, and I think they need him a little bit further up.
Direct play now from Mexico. Quiñones in a race with Williams, and the South African goalkeeper wins that, launches it away as we tick beyond the 45-minute mark. Well, it was a left-footed wonder goal into a top corner where South Africa got their goal against Mexico 16 years ago from Shabalala. It was a Rafael Marquez equaliser for Mexico. He is the assistant manager for the Tricolor nowadays, and well, it's been an exciting first half. A welcome return for the neutral fans of the FIFA World Cup with this 2026 edition, and with so much football to come. We hope for a similar intensity, particularly from what we've seen from Mexico. They've been the side to impress more in this first 45. 4 minutes have been awarded owing to the hydration break and a few stoppages here and there. But for Javier Aguirre and for Mexico, they will be delighted surely with this start.
They absolutely will, yeah. It's a really good start. It's everything they would have hoped. I mean, not just the goal. I think, if they would have come in at half-time and it was 1-0 and they only had one effort, they'd probably still be really happy, Ben. But the fact that they've been on top, they've had a couple of efforts really brilliantly denied by Williams. They've gone close on a couple of occasions outside of that, hit the post, of course, and the goal as well in the opening 10 minutes of the game. They'll be delighted.
They will be indeed, as the throw-in is taken quickly towards Jimenez, who holds it up on the edge of the area. A strike from distance from Gallardo deflected, and Williams will keep it in. It's quickly over through the byline to prevent a corner kick. 2.5 minutes to go in the first 45. Here is Ocon for South Africa, forward for Sitole. The South African midfield have struggled really to have an impact on the game. Adams and Sitole have been absent really. We've not seen much from them. Bakazi has been the most creative player. The two strikers have made good movements. Foster's had an effort, but maybe a chance now for Modiba, who looks to skip beyond his marker. Gets back to his feet for another chance of a 1v1. Modiba always looking to get it onto his left. The tackle comes in and the referee believes he's fallen back onto the ball as it rolls out of touch, but he doesn't agree. Here's the slow motion replay. It was Alvarado who was helping out, and he may have an argument whether or not the last touch came off of him, but a goal kick given, and Mexico defending when they need to. This was always going to be the tester, as we see Javier Aguirre unhappy with something. Maybe the fact that South Africa are growing into the game, or maybe this is just his exuberant personality, satisfied with nothing, maybe wanting the best out of his players. And there will be tougher tests to come as well, Tom, won't there? South Korea to come and the Czech Republic. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the latter of those two, Czech Republic, will be quite difficult to beat. They'll set up, pretty firmly in defence, and South Africa, of course, South Korea, of course, have got so many exciting players, and less than Heung-min Son. Maybe a chance for a second just before the break. It's a miscue that bobbles wide from Gutierrez. Well, they just keep racking up these opportunities in this first half. Mexico caught between two minds there. Maybe Gutierrez, did he look towards Jimenez, who had just peeled behind his marker? You can understand why he'd want to go for goal. He's trying to go across the ball, toe poked it, which has sent it wide by some distance. Yeah, he's had a couple of moments like that, Gutierrez. A couple of moments where you thought, oh look, this is a really fresh, young, exciting midfielder, and then maybe just a little bit overzealous, a little bit sort of lost in this huge spectacle, this opening game of the World Cup. But it was really good to create the opportunity, and South Africa found themselves with two or three defenders against two attackers, and Mexico, on another occasion, may have made the most of that. Ryan Gutierrez did represent the United States in both youth football and a couple of international friendlies before repatriating to Mexico 2 goals in his career so far. For the Tricolor, got a goal in a recent friendly against Ghana, and an assist in a 5-1 win over Serbia. And half-time in the opener of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. They do lead by a 1-0 thanks to an opener from Julian Quiñones inside the first 9 minutes. Through the legs it went of Williams. They've had some other decent opportunities to hit the upright as well. All going good so far for Mexico. It is at half-time, 1-0 in the opener of this World Cup.
half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead by 1-0. Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines. It was his goal that opened the scoring before 10 minutes. He's also hit the post, and the goalkeeper, South Africa, for half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top. South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead thanks to Julian Quinones, a Colombian-born midfielder playing in Saudi Arabia, has made the headlines with his finish through the legs of Williams in the South African goal. He's also hit the post, and a couple of saves have been forced on Williams. Mexico are firmly on top, South Africa with just one shot on target so far. Half-time, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Half-time in the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's one of the three hosts, Mexico, who lead. And it's a warm welcome along to this off-tube independent studio-based commentary and our coverage of the second half of the opening game of the FIFA 2026 World Cup. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Immediately though, there's some pressure on here, and Mexico have stolen the ball back. It could be a big chance for 2-0. Squared across the face of goal. It's blocked on the edge of the 6-yard box. It's eventually poked clear by South Africa. Shot comes in from distance. It's just over the bar. And what a lively opening 40 seconds or so to the second half. It's myself, Tom Wilson, joined by Ben White for this one. And again, calamitous playing out from the back from South Africa, causing them problems.
It's the exact same pass as well that led to the opening goal, played to the edge of the penalty area, centre of the pitch. That one's an even worse ball really from Williams, truth be told, and they get away with it massively. Not once but twice, because there's a decent volleyed attempt from distance that goes just wide off the mark. But yeah, trying to play it into Sitole, it was an issue when 9 minutes were on the clock and Mexico found the opener. It would well, it's bad enough to make that mistake once, but then to do it on the second occasion, and arguably with a worse ball as well, so early in this second half, it's unforgivable really. And I'm sure that wasn't what was in Hugo Bross's plans going into the second half, because they ended the first 45 quite well in comparison to how they started the game. And that would have just been an even taller mountain to climb for them with a whole half to go.
Yeah, a whole half to go. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Quinones' opener of this tournament. As I said just before half-time and at half-time, a Colombian-born player, Quinones, plays in Saudi Arabia. And you mentioned some of the goals that he scored over the last few seasons as well in his domestic campaign. He's been a real asset to this Mexico squad, who come into the tournament, as Ben mentioned before, qualifying for a really good, strong run of World Cup competitions. They, of course, reached the quarterfinals in 1970-1986, the round of 16 for 7 World Cups in a row, coming into the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, which they failed to get out of the group stages in. But that run between 1994 and 2018 of reaching the round of 16s led to this talk amongst Mexican fans of there being a curse on them being able to play a fifth game. Of course, chances of them being able to do that heightened not just by their brilliant squad, their brilliant start to the game, but also the fact that they have an extra game to play should they get that far, given the amount of teams in the competition. Mexico on the ball on the right hand side. A poked pass into the channel is easily dealt with back there by Modiba. Goes backwards towards the captain Williams, out towards the right hand side. South Africa in possession about midway through their own half. Madau goes forward towards halfway. Foster's there, tries to flick it around the corner. Again, Mexico have stolen it back, and they too cannot keep possession as South Africa come forward. There's a foul on halfway. Referee waves play on. It's forward towards the final third, but Reyes can't get on the end of it, and Mexico have won it back. It's been a really disjointed opening 3 or 4 minutes this second half then.
Yeah, well, what led to that forward ball, let's just say, in almost the defensive penalty area of South Africa, they conceded possession, Mexico conceded it back. Then it's the hosts that are lunging into challenges, which South Africa did on a number of occasions in the first half. Well, it looks as though Gutierrez is onside there. It was a brilliant ball played forward.
Yeah, he's in behind. There's a challenge from behind from the defender. The referee's had a good look at his assistant, and he has given a penalty. He took his time there, Wilton Sampaio, the Brazilian referee, and as Ben says, he has got to go. Red card for South Africa. It's a disaster for them at this World Cup, the opening game of this World Cup. It's Sitole who's seen red less than 5 minutes into the second half. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. They're down to 10 and they've got a penalty as well.
It was visible as well from the halfway line when they played that pass. Look at the gap there. It's remarkable, really, that Gutierrez is given all that space. Sitole.
Oh, he's outside.
Yeah, we'll wait and see where the final contact was. But there is no debate about the red card. It's last man. No attempts really to play the ball. It's obviously made difficult because Gutierrez cuts across him and there's a tangling of legs. But Sitole, who's had a real unfortunate game, really. He has been dispossessed in a few dangerous areas, and then Gutierrez gets the right side of him from the Mexican perspective to give them a man advantage in this second half. You only just mentioned 2 minutes before that it was a disjointed start to this second 45. Well, it's only boosted your correct opinion there, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicknamed Yaya, Sitole, one of the 4 players to play his football outside of South Africa domestically, and this will certainly play into the hands of Mexico. Javier Aguirre, the Mexico boss, will be certainly delighted. The home fans will be delighted. The whole country will be delighted. Mexico won 10 men, South Africa 0. An opportunity, a free kick, not a penalty, for Mexico to get their second. Raul Jimenez standing over the dead ball. 51 minutes on the clock. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. South Africa prepare their wall. I was going to count them then, but it's pretty much everyone standing in the wall. Jimenez over the ball, waiting for the all clear from the referee. Big opportunity, but it's such a close free kick. Jimenez steps up, hits it against the wall. It's not cleared. Still alive for Mexico towards the left-hand side. Gallardo with the effort. It's high wide, not too handsome. But Mexico certainly firmly in the driving seat in the second half now.
Yeah, absolutely. Only 6 minutes in, and well, this could be a sign of things to come, really. Jimenez wanted to go to the side of the wall rather than around it or over, but as you say, nearly everybody in the wall there for South Africa. And well, what do they do now? What's their next step in this match? Already a tall order. It was a difficult first half for them. There were glimmers of hope for Hugo Broos' side, but there's already been 2 or 3 really glaring warning signs in this second half, and the red card has only punished them further, really. Still only 1-0, of course, but Mexico, they'll just want to find that second goal now, and then they can really enjoy themselves.
Yeah, Gutierrez again causing problems. Left-hand side sliding challenge comes in on him, and he had to win the ball there, the South African covering defender, and he did. It's out of play for a Mexico corner. Shots of Canelo Alvarez in the Azteca Stadium watching on. His country, of course, in front and now on top. And a corner to come for the hosts. It will be an away swinger, something being prepared from the training grounds with Alvarado clutching his opposite shoulders as the ball comes in towards the front post, nodded away comfortably, away towards halfway where it'll be chased down by a couple from each team. Cleared away though and out for a throw-in. I mean, it's such a long way back now, isn't it, for South Africa? It's a World Cup, Ben, and anything can happen, but we've seen so little from them with 11 men. You'd struggle to make a case for them in the second half.
No, you really do, and every now and then there's that remarkable scenario where some teams can play better with 10, but I can't see Mexico inviting South Africa to come forward that often in the game. They will have every reason to, really, South Africa, particularly while it is only that 1-goal deficit. But as I say, Mexico, as soon as they find that second, then you'd assume it's game over, really. And then whether goal difference would come into play, whether they want to try and really boost that in favour in what is a very competitive group. It could come down to that, to finish second rather than third, or indeed third rather than fourth. But with tough games to come for South Africa, this is I wouldn't call it a disaster, really, because it's so early in the tournament, but it's certainly not gone according to plan, has it, for Hugo Broos?
It certainly hasn't. 54 minutes on the clock. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Mexico on their way to 3 points at the moment. Switch of play is inch perfect there from Lira towards the right hand side, but the bounce of the ball just takes it away from the run of Roberto Alvarado, and it goes out of play for a South Africa throw on that far side. I think from a Mexico perspective, they need to regain a little bit of composure. They're probably very excited given that they're in front. They're playing in front of their home crowd. They're playing against 10 men. They just need to make sure, I think, that they're very professional, Ben, and get that second and really try and put this game to bed. Get your thoughts on that in just a second. But here comes South Africa. Ball towards the right-hand side from Mokoena. Out towards Reynolds, who's just ran into the channel. He's only really got Foster to aim for in the box. Goes backwards for Mudau. Across centrally then for Adams, who takes it eventually after a bounce of the ball. Out towards the left-hand side for Mbukazi to Modiba. Modiba just trying to find a way through this Mexican back line, who have just sat behind the ball, and they're just soaking up a little bit of pressure as Mudau has it once again. Mexico almost waiting to win the ball back so they can pounce on the counter. A little bit of nervousness there in possession from Ocon. But forward for South Africa. Shot comes in from distance. It stings the palms of Rangel. And it's the first real effort of this second half for South Africa. And it does cause a little bit of a problem for the goalkeeper, but he brings it down in the end.
It does, yeah. The parry could have been far more threatening there, really, for Rangel. And he'll be glad to see they didn't go towards goal really after the save he made, but plenty of zip on it from Modiba. Certainly put his foot through it, similar to the effort in the first half from Bokazi. But they're not downing tools at the moment, South Africa, and why would they? To answer your question that you made earlier before the attack, they really can't be complacent in this scenario. Mexico, they do have the slender lead, and even with an extra man in their favour, they can't let what has been a promising performance slip, because you can see there just a pot shot from distance from Modiba, and if that ends up in the back of the net, then things can change entirely. Looks to be, though, a bit of a change in shape for South Africa as they make the first alteration of this World Cup, and it's Lyle Foster to make way for the midfielder Talenti Mbata.
Yeah, Mbata comes on. It's the first change of the game. You mentioned, we mentioned Lyle Foster in the first half. Really struggled to link up play in the way that we're used to seeing for Burnley and South Africa. He's been replaced, and a little bit more solidity in midfield potentially with Mbata coming on. He's another who plays in the top flight in his home country, plays for Orlando Pirates. Ball across the left-hand side. Mexico looking to pounce. Here's Jimenez. Heavy touch from him, though. That leads to a 50-50. And Mbukazi can't keep hold of possession. He's doubled up on as Mexico come forward. Tracking defender there, though, comes across in Sibisi, and South Africa have won it and then lost it. And then the challenge comes in. It's all a little bit chaotic from South Africa in this game. 57 minutes gone. Mexico 1, South Africa 0. A foul there in the final third, and a free kick for Mexico.
Yeah, messy really from Modiba, who concedes the free kick in the end, but they always look like they might concede possession there in their own defensive third, and an invitation really again for Mexico to try and find a second just before the hour mark. It's a free kick in a promising area towards the right corner of the 18-yard area. It's a few options as well as to who may take. There's plenty flood into the penalty area.
Yeah, opportunity for Mexico. The camera lingers on Vasquez. A target for this one's almost level with the byline. It's almost too close for a crossing opportunity. It's in a really awkward one for the taker. Needs to get this right. Can't overcook it, nor can he underhit it. Two stood over it. A right footer and a left footer. It is the right footer. Dinked in towards the area. Flicked towards the back post and then away from South Africa. Picked up on the right-hand side by Mbukazi, who's able to sweep it clear up towards halfway. It's just going to stay in, is it? No, it's just dribbled out. It will be a Mexico throw. 58 gone, Mexico 1, South Africa 0. Nearly 15 minutes into the second half already. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Off-Tube Independent Studio-based commentary. It was Quinones' goal who opened the scoring in this game and, of course, of the tournament. But in this second half, it's been... it's gone from bad to worse, hasn't it, for South Africa. They're down to 10 men after they had a man sent off. Ball out towards the right-hand side for Mexico. Well, we mentioned before, Ben, about how they're not really used to having possession. And I think they'll have to overcome that, not just in this game, but in the other games as well. Certainly in the group for starters, but at least they've got some practice now. Yeah,
quite right, really. Especially if Mexico maybe get a second and they deem it too tall of an order to come back, then maybe they could try a few different things out, whether they want to have tweaks for the games against South Korea and the Czech Republic. You mentioned they need more possession, really, and if they were to have it in this game, it's going to be even tougher for Rangers, who is that lone striker now with the man down. Yes, they've got an extra man in midfield, but it was already tricky with two in attackers. There's an in-swinger from Quiñones, but skips out. It was intended for Alvarado on the far side, but a goal kick as we approach the hour mark at the Azteca.
Yeah, been very impressed with the goal scorer Quiñones, but both wide players actually. Alvarado, the intended target there. But as you mentioned, we might just see a couple more changes. Well, a couple of changes for Mexico as the game progresses. Certainly, if they get that second goal, I mentioned in the build-up, they actually have the youngest player at the tournament. Mexico in Gilberto Mora, just 17 years of age. We might see his introduction. Of course, captain as well, Edson Alvarez, currently of West Ham, is on the bench. Ball forward though from Mudau, headed away though by Mexico, out for a throw on this near right hand side. An hour gone at the Azteca. It's Mexico 1, South Africa 0 in this opening game. It's South Africa in possession. Sibisi from Ocon, one of the four playing outside of South Africa, plays in the second flight of German football with Hanover. Just his 9th appearance for his country this evening for Ime Ocon, who's in possession once again, then finds the substitute Mabata. Ball forward towards halfway, pushing the back there from Alvarado. That'll be a free kick to South Africa. They've just, I think, turned the gear down a touch, Mexico, in the last few minutes. They're just allowing the South Africans to have a little bit more of the ball as they prepare a second change, actually. Hugo Bruce's side. It's going to be Jaden Adams who will be replaced. And interestingly, they just made a change a few minutes ago, Ben. They brought off an attacker for a midfielder. They're now reversing that with Zwane coming on. So it's an attacker for a midfielder. And
I was thinking exactly the same, that why would they make two changes so quickly as well, not in the same window, because now they've only got one window of opportunity to make a change. Slightly bizarre. There's 4 minutes between those two, and now bringing an extra attacker on. It looks as though he's going to play just behind the now lone striker in Rangers, or maybe alongside, depends whether they're in possession or not. But Mexico have certainly taken their foot off the gas in recent minutes, maybe just to see how South Africa would react to their own red card, whether they take a few more risks or settle down a bit. I'd expect Mexico to try and come forward again, because the longer really they're only 1-0 up, the longer it's at risk really of being punished with an equaliser.
Zwane comes on, a veteran striker, another of the Mamelodi Sundowns squad, the African Champions League winners, 36 years of age, but vital experience for his country, 54 games, 12 goals. Can he be the difference? Can he get South Africa back into this game? Mexico 1, South Africa 0, 63 minutes on the clock. You're listening to Off-Tube Independent Studio-based commentary. And for the first time really, Ben, in the game, last 5 minutes or so, been a bit of a lull. Just mentioned that with Mexico just taking their foot off the boil ever so slightly. There's another free kick there this time for South Africa. We might see that a little bit in this World Cup when there's a little bit of heat. We might just see, at times, especially when games are being played at such humidity, you might just see 5 or 10 minutes ever so slightly every now and again where the pace does drop. Yeah,
I think you're right. Maybe the hydration breaks just obviously aren't enough. It's only about a 2-minute break to have fluids and maybe a quick word, but for a full 90 minutes of intense top-level football, you'd imagine that there will be lulls in the game. It's only natural, and I guess it's then up to the managers as to when they may pick to bring the intensity down, and whether that then leads the opposition to take a chance and counteract that with more intensity to try and catch the opposition out. It's almost like a chess game at that point, isn't it, really, where you need to pick your moments to strike. We could see that through the tournament. Ball into the area for South Africa. Overhit, though, and out of play for a goal kick. A couple of the substitutes and one or two of the players on the pitch just having a plea towards the officials that there might have been a foul there, but the Brazilian referee, Wilton Sampaio, is not interested. And a play for a goal kick, which of course are being timed. It's quickly actually slapped away there by the goalkeeper. I thought the referee was going to allow that, but I think the goalkeeper was actually just playing it to his defender to then take it. So the ball's back in play now with Rangel inside his own area.
Goalkeeper for Guadalajara plays it forward. A similar ball that led to the opening goal for South Africa, but Mexico have been able to play out of the oncoming pressing attackers. As the ball goes out of play, I think Mexico are making a suggestion towards the referee that they wish to make a change. There's some frustration there from Javier Aguirre that the players weren't ready, or the fourth official wasn't ready. As that play continues with the ball back on the pitch. Ball forward by South Africa. Hits the chest of Cesar Montes, the captain. Plays his football for Lokomotiv Moscow. His ball forward though is intercepted, and again this lull in the game continues for the first time really in this affair. 65 minutes on the clock, still 1-0 to Mexico as Mudau now tries to inject some pace. There's a mistake at the back. Again, it's in possession and Mexico won the ball back. It's Gutierrez looking forward through the lines. Can't quite find his teammate there in Gallardo, who was making a run. But again, South Africa continuing to struggle in possession, Ben.
Yeah, they are. And whether it's nerves, obviously arriving at only your 4th World Cup and it's leading to mistakes, they need to shake these mistakes off, really. They can't continue to do this throughout the entire group stage, otherwise they will have no real chance of progressing. It's a chance now for Mexico to make a couple of changes, and indeed it will include the youngest player in the tournament.
Yeah, the youngest player in the tournament is coming on. It's Mora and it's Chavez as well, who are making their way onto the field. It's Brian Gutierrez, the man who was brought down for that red card for South Africa early on in this second half. He's been replaced. He wasn't a yellow himself, of course, as well. And Fidalgo of Real Betis, who played for Spain at youth level, he's come off as well. So double change for Mexico, and potentially just going to inject some pace into that midfield.
Yeah, it absolutely will. That zip of youth as well, and I'm sure he'll recognise it. He will have been told, I'm sure, in the media and whatnot, that he is the youngest, and maybe he'll want to light this World Cup early on. Of course, the tournament is no stranger to witnessing moments at birth, really, of such talented players. Pele, only a 17-year-old, lit up the World Cup back in the day. If you look at the Euros most recently, Lamine Yamal as well. The stage is set, really, for youngsters to really make a name for themselves, as Quiñones will find Mora on the right-hand side.
Yeah, ball into the area from him towards the back post. Immediate impact from Mora. But it's the man that most people listening will know, Raul Jimenez, who's got the goal. He scored Mexico's second. It's Mexico 2, South Africa 0, and surely all 3 points will go the way of one of our hosts. Raul Jimenez gets the goal.
Yeah, he does, and it's typical Raul Jimenez, really, just peeling off his marker, and as soon as the ball was destined for his head, he wasn't going to miss, was he? And that is the second goal they craved since the straight red card. And game over now, you'd imagine. He's emotional as well, Jimenez, tears in his eyes. A big moment for him as Mexico built it from midfield. Quiñones played it over to the right-hand side. It was Alvarado who got the ball in, and Jimenez, the back post completely unmarked, and a free header. And Williams, who's had some decent saves today, he's had a few mistakes as well. He would have had no chance with a point-blank header from a player who, as part of his repertoire, really is brilliant with his head. And South Africa, well, they look all to themselves as there's compare that with the jubilation in the home end. Emotions all round, really. Particularly for Jimenez, who was definitely touched by that moment.
Yeah, he certainly was, and he's still looking emotional. As that's just gone into the drinks break, sort of takes the sting out of the celebration ever so slightly. But you're 100% right. Back from that fractured skull in 2020, was still overcoming injuries and complications because of that in 2022. Many expected that he wouldn't play in that tournament, and he did. I think many expected that he wouldn't play in this tournament, but he has, and he's found the back of the net in the opening goal. He's been quiet for the most part in this game. It's a case of great ball, great header for Raul Jimenez, and it's Mexico 2, South Africa. We're down to 10-0. 69 minutes on the clock, and as I said, we're into the drinks break, the hydration break, and that provides me on the stroke of that second goal with a good opportunity to hand over to Ben to take through to full time.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And Jimenez really isn't a part of the hydration break. He's just being congratulated by every member of the playing squad and the coaching staff as well. Juxtaposition really with the emotions on the South African bench. And that was the pivotal moment at the beginning of this second half. It was the straight red card for Sitole, and a referee angle now of that second. A brilliant in-swinging delivery. The referee even has a little look to where Jimenez is, and the South African players couldn't locate him. And a vintage effort from a Mexican football legend. He comes into this tournament with the second most caps in the playing squad, Guillermo Ochoa, on 152, and Raul Jimenez now with his 125th and 46th goal for the Tricolor. And with the hydration break over, it's kick-off now for South Africa, who have it all to do. You get the sense they have it all to do in the tournament, really. It's been a tough one for them to take in this opener. It was always going to be a challenge in front of a packed-out Estadio Azteca, 80,000+ Mexican supporters. A brilliant atmosphere that would always favour the home side as one of the joint hosts in this competition. On paper, they had everything going against them. They've somehow got to find their feet again for the 2 games that remain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, given the format this year, Ben, of the extra teams, and there's only, I think, is it 4 teams don't go out of the group stages because of the number of third place teams that go through. That gives you a really good opportunity. It's going to be the worst of the worst that don't make it out of the groups, at least into the playoff round. So I think a win pretty much guarantees you. I mean, we can't say that for certain because this is the first game, but you feel, and you look at the other tournaments that have gone by, that maybe a win probably gets you through. South Africa were always going to find it difficult. The opening game against one of the hosts at the Azteca, the crowd, the liveliness, and the ability that Mexico have got as well. But I wouldn't say that I fancy them to get a win against one of the other 2 sides. Of course, we haven't seen them in action yet. Czech Republic, South Korea kicks off in a few hours' time, in the early hours for UK listeners. But I think if they win, they've got every chance of going through. They just need to find that victory from somewhere. They need to regroup after this. And I think crucially, in the 20 or so minutes that remain in this one, they need to make sure that this game doesn't get away from them. You mentioned goal difference is vital, could be vital for Mexico. Of course, likewise, it could be for South Africa, but for morale as well. Yeah,
particularly as well for the third place sort of second table that's made, as you say, 8 of the 12 would go through. So if you finish third, you have a 2/3 chance of progressing, and it could indeed come down to goal difference. Jimenez in an offside position, though, as that attack comes to a premature end. But Mexico in fine voice now, ranked 14th in the world, 46 positions ahead of South Africa. So it was always going to favour the Tricolor today. And how much of this is a performance where we can judge how Mexico will fare throughout the tournament? It's in Group A, certainly one of the more favourable matches. They'll have tougher tests against South Korea and the Czech Republic, but you always get one of an extra boost as being a host, or indeed co-host, as once again South Africa concede possession. Here's Jimenez, and is he barged over there? The referee immediately waves away any appeals, as he also stops play, I think, just because Jimenez may be winded. There was certainly contact, but you get the sense that Jimenez lost possession, and then it's a case of just shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, there are half-hearted appeals, aren't there, from Mexico players, and the fans, of course, want a penalty, but it's not even really coming together, is it? It's a shoulder barge, as you say, just sort of gets in front of him. It's not a foul. It wouldn't be a foul anywhere else on the pitch, so it's not a penalty for me. There's a little bit of a clash in hips, but I think it's good covering, defending, and I think Jimenez is hurt more than anything else. But again, it comes from South Africa losing possession in the defensive third. They need to change that if they do want to get any points in this tournament against Czechia and South Korea. But on the point that you were asking about Mexico, again, I think it would be really interesting to see them play against a possession-based side, given that they are better out of possession. They have real intensity in the press. With that being said, though, I think they've played some good football this evening, and they'll fancy their chances. Yeah, it's just over a week from now, Mexico's next game against South Korea. For South Africa, it's just under a week against the Czech Republic, as another yellow card is brandished by Wilton Sampaio in our game. Frustration mounting further. Sibisi going in late on the scorer of the first in Julian Quinones. And the yellow cards racking up as well against South Africa. The current count, it's just one booking for Mexico. It is the third card brandished by our Brazilian towards South African player, of course 2 yellows, and indeed the straight red for Yaya Sithole at the beginning of this second period. Here's Gallardo, just over a quarter of an hour remaining as Mexico prepare a couple more changes in the next interval as they look to control possession. No doubt the Estadio Azteca will be in fine voice at the moment. I'm sure the majority of those in the stadium will have been confident, but nevertheless will have had plenty of nerves going into this. There's always extra pressure being the host and the opening game of a World Cup. You want to bring a performance to get things going, and they certainly have, as they lead by 2-0 in the 75th minute. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary, Mexico 2, South Africa 0. Here is Quinones, got things going for them, plays it forward for Jimenez, scorer of the second, combines with Quinones again. Now Gallardo goes down, looks to still prod a pass through the South African defence, and another flying challenge. They're certainly not shirking away from tackles, South Africa, but that one was won cleanly by Mokoena, as Madiba then wins a free kick of his own. It's been a very physical game as well, hasn't it really, Tom? Particularly from the South Africans, and certainly not worried the fact that Wilton Sampaio has brandished a few yellow cards already.
Yeah, they've gone flying into a number of challenges, haven't they? I mean, as you say, they've not sort of shirked that aggressiveness. They haven't sort of shelved that for this game. I think maybe it's some misguided and misjudged advice potentially from players, from coaching staff. I imagine they probably said, get up for this game. The crowd's going to be up for it. You need to match that, instead of sort of fueling that into their game with the ball, or pressing. They've fueled that into sort of aggression and frustration, and that's led to a few challenges which have been not too nice, to be quite honest. And of course, they're down to 10 men. That wasn't because the challenge was particularly poor. It was just poorly timed, but it has hurt them. And of course, the 3 yellow cards that they've sustained as well, that could go on to hurt them later on in the tournament. The 2 yellow cards, sorry.
And Mexico making 2 changes. Eric Lira and Raul Jimenez both receiving plenty of applause in the Estadio Azteca, as Edson Alvarez, formerly of West Ham, now of Fenerbahce, gets his 99th cap, and Armando Gonzalez, the 23-year-old, getting his 8th, and indeed 2 more changes as well for the South Africans. It sees Modiba replaced by the attacker Oswin Apolis, so more options up front for South Africa. And the other change, the lone remaining striker that started the game in Reyners, is replaced by Evidence Magopa. So that is now 4 alterations apiece, and South Africa using all 3 windows, so no more changes for them. Mexico could make 1 more if they so wish in the final 13 minutes that remain. Here is Vasquez now in defence for Mexico. In for Edson Alvarez, takes the captain's armband upon his arrival. Now for Montes, good strength in depth that Mexico have as well. Indeed, this World Cup offering the chance for larger number of players in the squad to be picked, and whether that benefits other nations even more remains to be seen, but there is both youth and experience in the 11 and indeed the bench of Mexico, not least Guillermo Memo Ochoa, who's looking to play in yet another World Cup, the veteran goalkeeper. Here is Alvarado as Mexico search for a third. Here's the youngster then, Mora. Looks to play it to the left for Gallardo. 1-2 doesn't pay off. It will be a throw-in though for Mexico. Gilberto Mora earning his 9th cap this evening. Only 17 years of age, and such promise about him, and well, so soon after making their double alteration they will make their 5th and final change, and it's Julian Quinones, scorer of the opener, the very first goal of this World Cup edition, and on comes Alexis Vega, now 28 years of age. Plenty of promise in the early stages of his career. It's his 2nd stint now at Toluca, where he started his senior career. Guadalajara was a long 4-5 year stint in between. Only 7 goals though for his nation. He will hope to seize an opportunity before the final whistle to add to his tally. And as the ball is played in, they're just about dealt with by South Africa. Coming forward now with Mokoena, pressed by the teenager Berto Mora. going to eventually loses out, and he will be awarded the free kick after a bit too much of a terrier-like approach from the youngster there.
Yeah, I thought he was a little bit lucky there, Milkaena. We sort of dubbed him, and he has been dubbed by many sort of pundits and people a lot smarter than I, that he's one of the stars of this South Africa team, but he's lost the ball on a number of occasions, particularly in the second half, particularly in the last sort of 5 or 6 minutes. He looks really tired. He looks a little bit sort of off the pace of the game, and of course they're down to 10. It's going to be expected that happens.
Well, there was another occasion there where South Africa are playing out of defence and playing it forward to a midfielder who's facing his own goal, doesn't get the shout that there's a Mexican player pressing on him. That led to the first, and nearly led to a second early in the second half, and there's another quite evident example there that they haven't learned their lessons, as they look to win it back in the attacking half now, though. Second ball may come the way of Magopa. Over to the left now. As there's a Mexican player down, there's an opportunity for a strike from distance, and well, it is another shot on target for South Africa, and it's come from Evidence Magopa, as it's down, I believe.
Yeah, I think one thing that the South African fans will probably say is maybe they weren't up to the quality, maybe they weren't up to the occasion that the Mexicans provided. But I think one thing that we can take away is, given the fact that they've gone flying in with challenges, that the way that they have worked out of possession, they've got heart and they've shown desire, and they've shown that they have been trying. You can't take that away from them, but that only goes so far. You need a little bit of quality as well, don't you? And you need a little bit of luck, and they haven't had much of either.
They came into this opener, Mexico, in a strong run of form. It was 6 wins in their 8 matches with 2 draws. A decent unbeaten stretch, and they kept 6 clean sheets from those, looking for a 7th in this particular spell if they can not concede in the minutes that remain against 10-man South Africa. Plenty of positives for them in this group opener, with plenty of games to come in this World Cup edition. It's off to a very positive start, and well, hang on a minute. It looks as though our referee Wilton Sampaio is going over to the VAR monitor. The first time it has been called upon in the tournament, and we'll wait and see what might be the event under review.
Yeah, it could be a huge moment, this, couldn't it? We mentioned there's a few players on yellow cards for South Africa, and that might sort of haunt them later on in the competition. We're just seeing a still there.
Well,
there is. As a still, it looks like nothing. As a replay, you can see there is a gesture at the hand towards the back of the head of the Mexican attacker, Roberto Alvarado. This comes down to personal preference, I think, as a referee, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. There's the left hand swings down there, and well, obviously, if a referee is called over to the VAR monitor, it's quite often the case that they should overturn their original decision, which was to just play on from Sampaio. He is now looking at another angle. Slow motion comes out. There's intent, whether it's just to brush him away to continue the attack. The referee may see this now as a case of violent conduct, and this would be a very unsavoury opener, really, from South Africa to have 2 red cards in a World Cup opener. I struggle to think if there's been a previous example of that in World Cup history. Is it that we're waiting for the microphone to come live in the Estadio Azteca? Well, Mudau is right under the referee's nose, waiting to hear the final decision. He's got a perplexed look on his face. What will be the choice by Wilton Sampaio? Well, he's going into his pocket. There's bemusement on the South African players. He's taking his time, Sampaio, and he is in his back pocket. It looks as though it will be a second straight red card for South Africa, and indeed it is. With 7 minutes to go, it's gone from bad to worse, and it's for Themba Zwane, who only came on mere minutes ago. A disaster enough that they received a red at the start of this second half, and they've received another towards the end.
Yeah, this is a real blow, isn't it, to their hopes of in the tournament. I mean, they've lost the opening game, and they've lost 2 players. The second of which, Zwane, is one of those players who maybe if this tournament was 10 years ago, he probably would have played sort of every game that was possible, given his quality. He's a veteran now, he can't play that much. That's why he's been brought off the bench. He certainly wasn't brought off the bench to be shown a red card. I mean, there were some protests there, weren't they, from Zwane? There were looks of perplexement, as you mentioned, but was he feigning that? Is it a little bit of acting? It's hard to say, but yeah, I'm on the fence with that one. I'm not sure, but they are down to 10.
He has such a responsibility in the squad, vice captain of the South African team, and so soon after coming on, he's back down the tunnel again, and a real match to forget now for South Africa. It's been slim pickings for positives. Most of those came really in the latter minutes of the first half. There's been little to smile about for the South Africans that have made the trip to Mexico in the Azteca today, and some real disappointing moments. 2 straight red cards for them, down 2 goals as well, and before they've even got going in the tournament, really, with the way this match has gone, you can't see them progressing beyond the groups, which would have been their ambition going into this tournament. They've never reached the knockout rounds in FIFA World Cup finals history. This is their 4th appearance in the tournament finals, and it couldn't have started much worse for them. Mexico can really end this game now at a walking pace. 2-man advantage and a 2-goal advantage as well. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. Mexico 2, South Africa 0. Straight red cards for Yaya Sithole, and more recently for Themba Zwane. Here is Vega now, who also just came on a few minutes ago. Gallardo inside for Gilberto Mora. Vega once again. For Vasquez in defence. They've got the luxury now of deciding how to end this game, Mexico. Would they have wanted to have a bit more intensity in this second half? Because they haven't really needed to get out of third gear or so, really, in this second period. Whether that benefits them or hinders them in their preparations for their future games, we'll wait and see.
You're absolutely right. It is a question, isn't it? I mean, will they be fresher because of it? 3 points on the board, pretty good opportunity now to get out of the group. Will they be grateful for this come the knockout stages, particularly if they have to go into extra time or dreaded penalties? Here they come.
Yeah, they do. Mora pokes it to another option in the middle. Ultimately, the yellow shirts of South Africa get away with it, but you can just see the advantage now in terms of numbers. There's green shirts everywhere, and the South African players are spread further apart, and they're struggling to maintain possession. And Bukazi, who, well, goodness me, he was about to boot that ball into the face of Reyes there as well. It's temper's boiling over. He's been one of the slight bright sparks in this South Africa team, but you can see there Hugo Broos's frustration. Here's the referee's camera angle. With the camera that he's wearing for this game. He's only about 6-7 yards away from the incident, and with the assistance of the VAR, he gives the straight red.
Yeah, it's easy when you know what you're looking for, but we've got the referee's view there, but that doesn't tell us where his eyes are, it just tells us where his head's towards. He could be looking further on for, is there someone potentially offside, is there a coming together elsewhere? So when you know what you're looking for, you're waiting for that slap to come on the replay. It looks so obvious. The referee's clearly not seen it, or saw it and maybe didn't think too much of it. Of course, I've never seen Wilton Sampaio before, so I don't really know what his mannerisms are. But I got the sense when he was bringing that red card out, he was looking into the face of Zwane, and it was a look of sort of, I don't really want to do this, but I feel like I have to do it because it's the right decision. It's one of those where, by the rules, yes, it's probably a red card. It's probably going to go down as quote unquote violent conduct, isn't it? But I think in the spirit of the game, and particularly, I don't want to sound like a dinosaur, but 10, 15, 20 years ago, 4 or 5 tournaments ago, would never even been looked at, would it? But that's the game at the minute, and unfortunately for South Africa, it's a red card.
Yeah, 44 years of age. He's been an official FIFA referee for 13 years now. He made his first World Cup appearance in the last edition in Qatar. Had 4 matches, including the quarter-final between England and France. Of course, awarded those penalties to England, the latter of which Harry Kane missed. And ultimately, they bowed out in the final 8. As you say, the referee he won't want to be the one that has been part of a game that has brandished 2 red cards in the opener, but he had no choice, really, particularly for the first. It's a typical last man challenge.
Yep.
There's obviously a debate always when VAR gets involved, but I think there's enough intent there, whether it's, as I mentioned, just to brush him away as you're attacking, or whether there's certainly more willingness really to hurt the opposition. Ultimately, they've made their choice, and we're in the 90th minute all of a sudden, and Mexico comfortable in their lead. This is exactly how they would have wanted things to go, without any injury scares, without too much threat from South Africa, and two well-worked goals. First, one in a promising area, good pressing from them, and Jimenez with a typical Raul Jimenez header. As South Africa with only 8 outfield players on the pitch now trying to come forward. Another late challenge comes in, and you just get the sense really they're paying for the final whistle now. Bokazi, the one to concede another free kick.
Yeah, it's damage limitations now, isn't it, for South Africa? You mentioned no injury scares for Mexico. They'll probably only play about less than 10 minutes, won't it, with 9 men, but they've been playing a while now with 10. They need to be careful, South Africa, that some of those key players, particularly Mbakazi, they don't get injured, they don't pick up a yellow card, or God forbid another red card for South Africa to hinder themselves going forward in the tournament. So it's damage limitation. I think from this point on, 7 minutes have just been added by the fourth official. It's a case of don't concede, don't have anyone else sent off, no more bookings, and certainly no more injuries.
More happy returns for Mexico in the Estadio Azteca as well. They're unbeaten across 7 World Cup matches in the Azteca. As you mentioned, the first half, Tom, this is the 3rd occasion where a World Cup finals has taken place in Mexico. Of course, they're shared with the United States and Canada, but when they feature in their cathedral, they never lose, and that has continued to be the case today as well. They are winless in the last 2 against Bafana, but now getting back to winning ways against them. Here's Vega looking for a third. Looks as though appeals for a free kick. It was a bit too easy there, and maybe a chance for South Africa to come forward. Here's Mudau. He goes down on the edge, and the referee is having a conversation with his linesman. There's appeals for Mexico that a free kick should have been given the other way at the opposite end of the pitch. Didn't seem enough in it for me, but the referee has some house cleaning to do. And the card is out again, and it's another red card. This is quite remarkable now. This is absolutely sensational. In a World Cup opener, we have 3 straight red cards. The first for Mexico. Cesar Montes is given his marching orders. And well, Sampaio is certainly making a name for himself.
I mean, the second's on the fence, Ben, but this is nowhere near it. This is in the field on the left-hand side. This is ridiculous. He sent him off for what I can only assume he thinks is a last-man challenge. The touch there from Mudau, outside the area, by the way, so not a penalty. It's going to take him, once he gets on the end of that, he's going to be almost level with the edge of the 6-yard box on the right-hand side. There's 3 covering defenders to the left. It is nowhere near a last-man challenge. It's not a red card. He's got that one all wrong. I was defending him for the second because I can understand why he's give it. I think he has to give that second. Yeah. This third is absolutely ridiculous. You were just saying before, I don't think there's been 2 red cards in an opening game. I'm pretty sure I'll go out on a limb and say there's probably not been 3.
It's absolutely unbelievable, and where we've given understanding to Sampaio for that second red card. Montes is still on the pitch, incidentally. He does not want to leave. Well, I would imagine VAR has taken a look, as they do with every incident, really. I think you're right that it's a last-man incident, but in no way is it enough for a red card. It's one of those cynical challenges where he's wiping out an attacker on the counter, and it's easy as day, yellow card. Not enough for a red. He's going wide. He's not through on goal. Not enough for a red, but well, from what I could see there from Wilton Sampaio, he pointed back to the ball as if the check had been complete. And, we're going to be ending with 3 fewer players than we started with, and with 4 minutes to go. Well, there's almost a bit of energy about South Africa now. If they got a goal from this free kick, could they? I mean, it would be sensational, wouldn't it? There's still a lot of work for them to do. But high drama in a return to the FIFA World Cup for us neutrals.
Yeah, absolutely. It's chaotic, isn't it? I mean, we had a lull, didn't we, about midway through the second half, and I think we both sort of looked at each other and we were looking at the players and thinking, okay, maybe the game's pretty much done now. Since that second goal, it's been absolutely bonkers.
Mokoena rolls it, and it's a real poor pass. What a waste that is for South Africa. There could have been a decent opportunity for them there, but Mexico can clear their lines. Williams thumps it upfield. as we have 3 minutes remaining of the 7 in what has been such an eventful opening match of the FIFA World Cup. In the opener in the last edition, it was a 2-0 scoreline. Qatar 0, Ecuador 2. Didn't have as much talking points though as this one.
No, it certainly didn't. And as you say, 3 less players than we started the game with. And we were just saying, weren't we, for South Africa, it's damage limitations time. We mentioned for Mexico as well, they want to come away with no injury scares. Well, they've just lost their captain.
Yeah, that's certainly a big blow. South Africa coming forward then. With Evidence Magopa. If anything, the red card for Mexico was maybe given something for South Africa to play for, but it's too little too late really, as another misplaced ball goes out for a throw-in for Mexico. I think that the manager now, Javier Aguirre, will just want the full-time whistle. I get the sense that Wilton Sampaio wouldn't give that red card if there hadn't been 2 red cards already as well.
Yeah, you do wonder, don't you, about that, as he sort of tried to level it up a little bit. I mean, that's certainly not the way you want referees to go about the game, and especially not at such a high level with such high stakes. But you know, a lot of talk about the ticket prices coming into the tournament. Well, I think you could say, at least for this game, they've probably been justified, Ben. Such as the entertainment.
Yeah, you had the opening ceremony too, as you mentioned, a host nation in front of a packed stadium, getting the first goal of the tournament, getting a second in the second half, and then 3 straight reds as well. 2 for South Africa and 1 for Mexico. Well, 5 hours from now will be South Korea and the Czech Republic. It's got a lot to live up to, the other 2 competitors in Group A, and indeed for every of the other 44 competitors of this 2026 FIFA World Cup. Early cross in on the right hand side from Mokoena for South Africa is cleared away. Vega looks to control, but his touch goes out for a throw in as we near the final minute of the additional 7. Here's Sabisi, the recipient of a yellow card earlier in the game, but they almost feel immaterial now. Here on the left is Apolis. Switch of play to the right hand side. It won't reach the intended target of Mudau as Gallardo hooks it away not once but twice, and Vega will keep this one in. More chance for a third maybe. Alexis Vega. Cross in, there were a couple of options in the middle. It's away though by the South Africans. Real stretched game now with 3 players dismissed, and Mudau wins a free kick, which might very well be the last action of the game.
Yeah, he's just tried to sort of almost wait for the ball to run across him and then flick it round the defender, but in doing so he's allowed the defender to come back, and he's actually been caught by him, and he's gone down, a little stub on the toe potentially on Mudau. Yeah, we're into the final seconds of the game, chaotic and crazy, but you know, let's not take away from the fact that before most of the controversy, Mexico were the better side, went ahead through Quinones, and a wonderful moment for Raul Jimenez getting his first goal in his 4th World Cup. He never scored in the tournament, but he got that goal. He put Mexico 2-0 up, and of course since then we've had a total of 3 red cards. Absolutely bonkers game, absolutely bonkers second half.
Yeah, fireworks in the opening ceremony and fireworks on the pitch as well, as the full-time whistle is blown by Wilton Sampaio, who's had a busy afternoon in Mexico City. The co-hosts run out 2-0 winners in this opener. Goals in the first half from Quinones and in the second half from Raul Jimenez, but 3 straight red cards brandished by Wilton Sampaio, 2 for South Africa and 1 for Mexico. Group A sparks into life and sets the tone for this World Cup to come. Full time, Mexico 2, South Africa 0.
Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting markets, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary